Head to Knoxville, don't be late. Baker's Live, it's gonna be great. June 5th and 6th, mark your date at Dollywood, we'll celebrate. Meet Baker and more cool friends. Live show magic that never ends. Come to Dollywood, feel the vibe. With great people there, it's gonna be a ride. Rides, fun, and meet and greet. Baker and pals, the crew's so sweet. Get ready for laughs, cheers, and thrills. Knoxville's the place, it's giving chills. Meet Baker and more cool friends. Live show magic that never ends. Come to Dollywood, feel the vibe. With great people there, it's gonna be a ride. June 5th and 6th, don't miss the fun. Meet Baker and friends, it's second to none. Baker and friends, it's second to
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whoever you are, what, if any, you might be.
With Ms. Thornhill and Mr. Hendry. Mr. Levine is here for the state. Anything before the jury arrives?
Yes, sir.
No, you are. All right.
So, hey, Shizzy Raiders, and welcome to another day of verdict watching. Almost 5 hours verdict watching yesterday, today, hopefully not as long, but we'll see, figure out what to do while we are waiting. We had one question yesterday, can we have the transcript read back to us about the neighbor's testimony? They were told, no, it's too broad, and they didn't come back with another question. Someone's starting out hot. Hey, on bronze. Oh, come on, chameleon. And someone suggested that I looked at a case out of Tennessee, the Megan Boswell trial. I don't want to do a 3-week trial about a young baby again. I'm sorry, I just can't do that for 3 weeks. Horrible case, whatever. I've seen on it multiple times. She changed the story, but I can't do that. Kid cases are a little too rough. Oh. Hey, Canadian and Rob Mill. Nope. Good morning, Disabled Dahlia and Carly Kramer and Brandon and Christy G. Yeah, that was boring too. And Kim. Yeah, she changed her story. The grandma wouldn't give her back. Then she gave her. It's a mix between the Casey Anthony and the Letitia Stout case. The grandma wouldn't give her back, or she gave it to some unknown person, and then they found it at her grandpa's house. No, and I never will, Zach. You know that. Hey, Jennifer Juniper. Yeah, it's just I've had my fill of those. But I was actually trying to look for the ME that testified in the case Beverly Canone has, but I can only find a court TV clip, and it's with all their stuff. But I might pull it up because a guy who had 90% less function in his aorta is murdered because he got into a fight. Someone forgot to turn their phone off.
Please be seated.
I know that it was alive, but I still
Good morning,
don't want
ladies
to
and
sit through the
gentlemen.
case.
We bring you in here just so that the parties can make sure that all of you have returned for deliberations, and the record will reflect that all jurors have returned. Thank you again for your service in this case. You may now retire to continue deliberating your verdict.
All right, please.
No, I can find. Well, I have the court TVs, so I can pull that up. So we have that. Then I'll just have to have this case running on another stream. So I'm sure if anything happens, I can get, because YouTube don't let us play 2 streams at once anymore.
We'll be in a recess awaiting the verdict.
See if it's as weird as they say.
Now, the procedure that you previously discussed about how you review information and then you start with the outside examination and then you do the internal examination, is that how you performed this particular autopsy on
Yes.
January 30th?
Yes, it was.
And once you finish your autopsy, do you create a report of the autopsy?
I do.
And is that the document that you're referencing right now?
I have both the body diagram and also the report of autopsy in front of me.
I am doing better today. I talked to a dentist, and I have some inflammation in my gum. That's why I'm swollen in one side. So I'm on what's it called? Penicillin. Hope to bring it down.
Me, yes.
So could you please tell the court, did you observe any injuries to the body of Andrew Savitz on January 30th of 2020?
I did.
And what did you notice?
I'm Kathy.
He had an ecchymosis or a bruise surrounding his left eye. He also had lacerations of the oral mucosa, which means just the inside of his lip. He had an abrasion on his back, and he had abrasions on his right arm and left leg. And by abrasion, I mean a scrape.
And were you able to tell how old any of those injuries were?
No.
And why not?
It's difficult to date injuries unless you have multiple similar injuries on a decedent, and then you can kind of place them in a timeline. For example, if someone had 3 different bruises, one of them was more purple and one was more green, you would know that the one that was green was older. However, you couldn't say the green one was from a week ago and the blue one was from an hour ago. So you would need multiple similar injuries in order to date them like that.
And once you make your observations of the injuries to Mr. Savitz, did you record them in your report?
I did.
Now, Dr. Diedrich, were you able to?
This is a bench trial with Beverly Canone. The case is that Penny McGee and her former husband, Andrew Savage, were having a fight. And the daughter testified that she saw them slapping, she saw her slapping him, but he passed away because of a heart attack. And this is the ME that figured out that the heart attack actually was a murder. And that's why I wanted to see how she got to murder from a heart attack, because apparently his heart condition was absolutely horrendous.
To refer to any medical records prior to conducting this autopsy?
Before I was completed with my death certificate, my autopsy report, yes. I do not know if I had all of.
It's not my tooth. It's she said I had a nick on my gum and something had gotten in there. I don't know what, but hopefully it'll clear up now. I got a penicillin.
The medical records before the actual exam. Those often come in throughout the day, or even up to days and weeks after.
And what medical records did you have with regards to Mr. Savitz before you had completed your death certificate?
I had emergency room records from Beth Israel.
And did you have any other information pertaining to Mr. Savitz prior to completing the death certificate?
I did.
What else did you have?
I had the Brookline Police Department report, and I had the Massachusetts State Police report as well.
Now, what information, if any, did you learn from the police reports and the medical records that you factored into?
Yes, this is Bev, and it's a bench trial. That's why I wanted to cover it, but it was only audio. Court TV only releases this later or run it on their website. Their website is 200 ads per minute, so I didn't want to cover it there. Melanie Little have been covering it, and then they have released parts of it later.
Completing your death certificate?
There were multiple pieces of information. One that was taken from the police reports was the timeline of when he was seen to collapse. There was information relayed to me, again, in those two reports, that there had been some sort of argument between Mr. Savitz and I believe his ex-wife that was reported by their daughter to 911. He was witness to collapse during that argument. And so that was one piece of information that led to my conclusions. The other piece was the Beth Israel records indicated that he had EKG changes that were consistent with what is called a STEMI, which is an ST elevation myocardial infarction. It's a type of heart attack. So those two pieces of information were key to my decisions.
Now, once you completed the external examination, did you then move on to perform an internal examination?
I did.
And what did you observe during your internal examination?
Mr. Savitz had quite a bit of cardiac disease. Specifically, his heart was enlarged. He had changes to the valves in his heart. So his aortic valve was calcified. His mitral and tricuspid valves were thickened. He also had severe calcification or stenosis of his left anterior descending coronary artery and his right coronary artery, up to about 90% occlusion. So those are two of the three main cardiac coronary arteries. And he also had.
What she just said was this guy could have fallen over at any second. Him eating a donut could tip him over the line, but they still charged his ex-wife with red rum.
Moderates up to 60% stenosis of his left circumflex coronary artery. He also had moderate atherosclerosis of his aorta. He had severe atherosclerosis of the vasculature to his brain. He also had an old infarct in his brain, which again is consistent with that cardiac disease. And he had what we call nephrosclerosis, which is kidney damage, again, indicative of continuous high blood pressure, hypertension. Again, that fits together. He also had evidence of diabetes, which was also recorded in his medical record. His pancreas was fibrotic, meaning that his pancreas did not function the way it was supposed to. And I neglected to mention on the external examination, he also had what is known as a continuous glucose monitor, which is, again, a device that is often used in patients who are diabetic.
Now, doctor, just going back to your cardiac findings, can you explain what the coronary arteries are?
Of course. There are...
A brain infarct, it's because he had I think, like a stroke before.
Like I said, 3 main coronary arteries. So there's the left anterior descending, the left circumflex, and the right coronary artery. Those are the blood supply to the heart itself. So they provide blood flow to the heart to enable it to function.
And when you say a severe 90% stenosis of the left anterior descending and right coronary arteries, can you explain what you mean by that? What is a stenosis?
Stenosis means that it's small. So if you picture it like a pipe, for lack of a better analogy, it would be as though a pipe was blocked so that only 10% of the flow could go through that pipe.
And then when you say the left circumflex coronary artery, which artery is that?
It wraps around to the left side of the heart. It's another one of the coronary arteries.
And what is the aorta?
The aorta is the main artery throughout the body that provides...
My dad passed away from a heart attack as well. He had 50% stenosis in his heart. This guy, he was a cough away from dying. But still, it's unaliving.
Blood flow to the rest of the body from the heart. So to the organs, to the limbs, etc.
Now, Dr. Diedrich, the external injuries that you described, could any of those external injuries have caused Mr. Savitz's death?
By themselves, no.
Once you were able to conduct your external examination, your internal examination, and you had reviewed all of the provided documentation from both the police departments and the hospital, were you able to form an opinion as to the cause of death?
Yes.
And what was your opinion?
I signed out the cause of death as cardiac dysrhythmia following an altercation in a person with hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease and diabetes mellitus.
Could you please explain for the court, what does that cause of death mean?
You can break it down into 3 components. So cardiac dysrhythmia means that the heart misfired. Other people might use the terms cardiac arrhythmia or cardiac arrest or cardiopulmonary arrest.
So his death was by lifestyle choices, bad lifestyle choices that she did. She forced upon him, because diabetes and calcification of the aorta is because you've had a bad diet.
But it means that his heart misfired in such a way that his heart was not functioning correctly. The second piece, so following an altercation, means that he, again, had a witnessed argument and immediately collapsed during or immediately following that argument. And then the third piece, a person with hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease and diabetes mellitus is referencing that natural disease that was both in the medical record and also seen at the time of autopsy.
Now, you had indicated before that the timing was an important factor in determining your cause of death. Can you explain what about that timing led you to reach this opinion?
Yes. So NAME, the National Guiding Organization for Medical Examiners, sets out guidelines for how to certify deaths. One of the critical components for cases such as this one is that for a person who is in kind of a heightened
No. In Massachusetts, this is murder.
Emotional situation, whether that's an argument or an altercation or something similar, if they are witnessed to collapse or have an arrhythmia, either during that event or immediately after, you cannot ignore that temporality, that
We're not really covering it. I just wanted to hear this crazy lady.
Timeline.
And so were you able to form an opinion based on that information and your observations as to what the manner of death is?
Objection.
For the reasons stated?
Yes.
So I'm going to allow it subject to, after I hear everything, we just can't.
Were you able to form an opinion as to the manner of death?
Yes, I did.
And what was that opinion?
Homicide.
And can you explain what homicide means according to the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner?
In this situation, homicide is a medical definition, which means death at the hands of another.
And do the NAME guidelines instruct that homicide is an appropriate manner of death in a situation where there is an argument and a close in time death following it?
Yes, they do.
Well, did your wife? Well, your wife did yell at you, so it's probably an attempted red rum.
Dr. Diedrich, with regards to what you read in the documentation, the police reports, and what you observed about Mr. Savitz during the autopsy, were you able to form an opinion as to who caused Mr. Savitz's death?
Objection.
That's sustained.
In your medical opinion, would Mr. Savitz have died at that time if not for the argument that had ensued?
Objection.
For the reasons that I know earlier, I stated.
It's Massachusetts. It's Judge Bev. It's the same courtroom Karen Reed is in.
Which is.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, he would not have passed away if not for the circumstances of that day.
There's just no way. No, she just did a legal conclusion. He wouldn't have passed away that day if they weren't getting into a fight. This guy with his 90% blocked aorta was running a marathon the next day.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Apparently, according to this lady.
Dr. Diedrich, I'm showing you exhibit number 2. Do you recognize this document?
I do, yes.
What is it?
This is a representation, a copy of the death certificate that I signed for this case.
Now, when did you sign this document?
Thank you, just for the swear jar.
April 24th of 2020.
And Ms. Crawford, could we please see exhibit number 2? Dr. Diedrich, could you just explain for the court the process of certifying a death certificate?
So often at the time of an autopsy, as we have discussed before, the medical examiner is waiting for additional information. So a death certificate generated on the day of an autopsy is marked as manner pending and cause of death pending. As more information comes out, the final cause and manner of death are then determined. The way that it works at my office, at the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner for the Commonwealth, I then fill out an amendment sheet, either digitally or handwritten. It is then given to an administrative assistant who updates the information in the vital records system.
I don't know much about it. I saw it was a bench trial with Beverly Cannon, so I was kind of looking at it, but then there was no video feed from it. And then I just heard this crazy take yesterday.
The online system. I then go into the online system and digitally sign the death certificate.
I don't know if...
So in this
immunity
particular
goes for
case,
that one.
it was almost 4 months later, correct?
Yes.
And is that an unusual time frame or length of time to have a pending certificate turn in?
Brendan, how long have we been looking at Massachusetts saying, okay? I would like to know what happened in the 3 months between the original death certificate and the change to homicide. Oh, we might hear it on the cross. I haven't watched it. Hey, Melissa. Yeah, I know Melanie Little have shown it without video, but I just find it so annoying to just hear it. Oh, she made another. I think she's the paragon of ethical doctoring, so I can't believe that. Women should have a class action case. No, I should think the people of Massachusetts should have. Yeah. I'm reading it, and it's like you get in an argument, then pew someone, not their blood pressure rises. Well, that's just like your opinion, man. This lady is really smart. She went to school and stuff.
Into a final?
No, the name guidelines would like 90% of death certificates signed out by 90 days. But for cases that involve more components, this is not outside the realm of what is considered normal.
And so the name guidelines speak to the procedure of certifying the death certificate?
Yes.
I'm going to have to object and ask him something.
Okay.
Matthew and argument just
the fact that he was involved in this.
Sadly, there's no, the cross isn't there. I hate court TV is doing this. Instead of just putting everything up, they just put up these snippets. So I can't even find the cross-examination part of it. No. And Marissa, that case you sent me, it's in Kansas, so it probably doesn't start till late, and I can't see any channels that's running it. What was the name of this lady? My mother-in-law gave my father-in-law 2 Lindor chocolates at 11:15. He got severe stomach pain around 11:45. By 3:30, oh. Is something happening? I saw movement. At 3:30, he passed unexpectedly. Yeah, that's homicide. Clearly dead by chocolate. Yeah, but it's Kansas, so it's going to be late. Isn't Kansas like mountain time, so 3 hours behind you? This is just stupid. But I would really like to see if I could find a cross-examination on it. And by the way, the verdict clock, for those of you who missed that, is at 5 hours, 22 minutes, and 37 seconds, which is surprisingly long for me, seeing what... sorry, Penny, Maggie, Emmy, Cross. Can I find the cross-examination? No. This is the daughter's cross-examination. I really dislike smart TV. Well, you can just go to the courtroom and get it yourself. I could. But I'm not allowed to go to Massachusetts because I am an a-hole. And I've said bad things about them. So they will probably arrest me if I enter. Nope. They don't have the cross-examination up there, of course. That's annoying. You have to participate in an argument. Okay, so if he's just yelling at me and I keel over, it's not an unaliving. Yeah, I think most of us were at 2 to 4 hours yesterday, but no. Yeah, but the one you sent me a link to, they don't run live streams. So, but that's the case she sent me was Dana Chandler, who is being tried for the third time in unaliving her husband. She was found guilty back in She was charged with 2 counts of unaliving in 2002 because her ex-husband and his fiancée passed away. And she had her conviction overturned after a 2011 arrest, and a retrial ended in a hung jury in 2022. Can I find more about this? Because if she was found guilty the first time, why could she be arrested again? The Shawnee County double murder case against Dana Chandler has seen more twists and turns than a soap opera. Gunshot fired repeatedly into their sleeping bodies unalived her former husband Michael Sisko and his fiancée Karen Harkness in 2002 at Harkness's duplex in southwest Topeka. In the years that followed, Chandler was pinpointed as a possible suspect in 2009 on the CBS true crime documentary program 48 Hour Mystery, was convicted of the Red Rum in 2012 and given a prison sentence that left her ineligible for parole for 100 years, saw her conviction overturned in 2018, was given a second trial which ended in a hung jury in 2022, learned later in 2022 that her third trial would be at the Pottawatomie County Courthouse in Westmoreland. That trial is to begin Monday, 22 years and 7 months after Sisko's and Harkness died. A pool of 225 potential jurors is set to report Monday, said Lee Welch, administrator for Shawnee County District Court. That these jurors will all be Pottawatomie County residents, she said. Pottawatomie County takes its potential juror from a list of licensed drivers obtained from the Kansas Department. Doesn't matter. I see movement in court. I'll just keep it up here. The case against Chandler continues to receive national media attention. Well said Shawnee County District Court Judge Cheryl Ryers, who is presiding, granted permission to take video of the trial to NBC Dateline, a news magazine reality legal show. NBC asked for have a camera. Then why don't NBC stream it? Harkness, 53, was a convention sales representative with the Topeka Convention and Visitors Bureau at the time of her unaliving. Cisco was a district sales manager for National Standard Welding Products. Cisco and Chandler had been married in 1982 and divorced in 1998. Cisco was granted full custody of their daughter and son, who were 17 and 15, respectively, at the time of his unaliving. Chandler, now 64, moved to the Denver area after their divorce, but prosecutors said she continued to be obsessed with Cisco and make frequent, persistent phone calls to Harkness and Cisco. Kevin Rigsby, a co-worker, told police Cisco told him that if he failed to show up to work, Chandler had unalived him. Harkness and Cisco went the evening of July 6th to the Sack and Fox Casino in southern Brown County. They were found deceased the next day in their bed in a basement bedroom in Harkness's duplex in southwest Topeka. Cisco had 7 lead-acetylene wounds and Harkness had 5. Harkness died instantly, but Cisco did not, according to testimony on Chandler's first trial. Police ruled out robbery and burglary as motives, saying they found cash totaling $1,300 in 2 wallets at the scene. Chandler was initially questioned by Topeka police, but not charged. Officials has gone 7 years without making an arrest or filing charges in the case when 48 Hour Mystery in 2009 contacted newly elected Shawnee County DA Chad Taylor about it. An episode of that program, which aired later that year, focused on Chandler's possibly being the killer. Meanwhile, Taylor and his office worked to build a case against Chandler. Prosecutors accompanied law enforcement officers as they arrested her in 2011 in an Arby's parking lot in Duncan, Oklahoma, where she had moved. About a dozen officers drew their guns, pointed them at Chandler's vehicle, and ordered her to surrender before she complied. Then Assistant DA Jackie Spaulding focused during Chandler's 2012 trial on circumstantial evidence that could tie her to the murders. Chandler said she wasn't in Kansas when the murders were committed and instead was spending time alone in the Colorado mountains with her cell phone turned off. But prosecutors noted that Chandler acknowledged buying 2 5-gallon cans of gasoline on July 6th. They contended she used the gasoline to refuel her car during the round trip from Denver to Topeka so she wouldn't leave any credit card records placing her in Kansas. Jurors for her 2012 trial deliberated only 83 minutes before convicting her of 2 counts of intentional and premeditated first-degree unaliving. She was given prison that left her eligible for parole for 100 years. But the Kansas Supreme Court in 2018 unanimously reversed Chandler's conviction and sentence. The High Court said Spaulding engaged in misconduct and serious error, including telling jurors Chandler had violated a protection order against Cisco when no such order existed. The High Court in 2022 disbarred Spaulding, citing intolerable pattern of deception. And a crooked prosecutor? I've never heard stuff like that. Meanwhile, Shawnee County District Attorney Michael Kagay requested and was granted the right to refile the case against Chandler. Her second trial ended in a hung jury after juries deliberated for more than 40 hours. Jurors said afterward they had been deadlocked, with 7 favoring conviction and 5 favoring acquittal. Shawnee County prosecutors then requested and were granted a third trial. Rios was allowed Chandler to go free on bond and stay with a relative while awaiting these proceedings. I don't like it when they can get so many bites at the apple. So, and especially when you have a crooked prosecutor. Yes, I can try. Oh, this case will go live Friday. But what time zone is Mountain compared to Eastern? I still don't get that. This trial is a horrible trial. And a trial that got us a little split because on one side, the state didn't really prove what they claimed because they are going with murder 1, which I believe, demands a little more premeditation than what happened. But basically, Collin had lived with his dad for 5 years. Then he puts 2 ledasilin injections into his dad, one in the chest, one in the head. They can't, they charge him. No, they don't charge him because they can't rule out self-defense in that case. He's then moved to his mother, and then all the trouble starts. Him and his mother are multiple times Baker acted. They fight. She seems very controlling. The grandma said that they had a lot of problems with discipline. The mom had a really bad life herself. She had been in something called a Hope House where she had eluded from, was found in a hotel with a guy who was a couple of years older. She was 13 at the time. She was impregnated by that time. She had Collin's older brother. Then Collin was born some years later. We were not shown evidence because they didn't show any evidence, but we listened to tapes of her yelling and screaming about Collin needed to come home, even though they had shared custody, her and the grandma. So Collin could go to the grandma's house to kind of get away from the mom. They had a very contentious relationship. In the end, it comes down to, did he walk around planning that he was going to stabulate his mother? Or did she attack him and fall and stab herself in the neck? To me, when the defense claimed that she fell and stabulated herself, you lost any not guilty, in my opinion. But I would go for murder too in this case. I think they got into an argument and he just did it. Maybe she brandished it, he took it and stabbed her. There's only one wound to her face or to her neck. And in a fight, I would have seen more, I think. A little split that was put in play. Wow. Just one person I got to yell at. I know the stuff about his mom nagging and recording him, no trust, and the previous self-defense part regarding his father's red rum. Yeah, but I don't know. It says in Westmoreland, Kansas, which according to Google is 1 hour behind Eastern. Okay. Yeah, and she was in a Hope House. She had a boyfriend. Was he 17 at the time? And then I don't know how the rules are in Florida. In Denmark, we have 15 as the youngest, but then you have that gray zone where you say, do you call it Romeo and Juliet rules, where, yeah, they're both underage, and maybe she's 14 and he's 15 or 16. You'll skirt those limits a little bit. Or you could be like our former foreign minister who was giving a lecture at a youth party conference and raw dogged a 15-year-old and forced her to take Plan B. He was still made a minister because what does that mean? A 35-year-old who does that to a 15-year-old. Yeah, but I don't know what time is time. Nice rundown, Baker. Here's $10 worth of gratitude. Well, thank you. That's why you go to a channel where people can run it down for you instead of go into law and crime. But thank you so much. Here is an unending amount of gratitude for your $10. Hey, Valhalla. How's the goat fella? Hey, Kelly Didi. Why do they keep walking around in the courtroom? Does something happen or does something not happen? I'm afraid to try and find some other video we could watch while this is going on, just so we have some entertainment going on. I know I don't want to do it, but I could put it on and then I could hate myself for doing it. Because I'm not going to cover it. We have Karen Reed tomorrow. Are you joining me for Karen Reed tomorrow, Valhalla?
During the course of the trial, you should not talk with any witness, defendant, or attorney involved in this case. Please do not talk with them about any subject whatsoever. You may see them.
I am not going to cover this fully, but we can watch the opening statements. I know other people are covering it. This is the Boswell case, the baby case. I'm not covering that fully.
At the end of the case, it is important that you wait until all the evidence is received and you have heard all of my instructions.
Valhalla can't have ducks.
Before you deliberate among yourselves. During the course of the trial, you will receive all the evidence you may properly consider to decide the case. Because of
tomorrow is motions day. Depends upon the current and future beer cooler volume. If Valhalla can get up tomorrow, I don't know. I doesn't acknowledge the existence of mountain time as well as the state of Arizona. I have no problem with mountain time.
This, you should not attempt to do any research on your own or gather any information on your own that you think might be helpful. Do not engage. At times during the trial, an attorney may make an objection to a question that is asked by another attorney or to an answer that the witness gives. This simply means the attorney is requesting that I make a decision on a particular rule of law. Do not draw any conclusions from the fact that an objection was made or from my ruling on that objection. My rulings only relate to the legal questions that I must determine and should not influence your thinking. If I sustain an objection to a question, the witness will not be permitted to answer the question. Do not attempt to guess what the answer might have.
Go around and spilling beer for them.
Similarly, if I tell you not to consider a particular statement that was made, you should put that statement out of your mind, and you may not refer to that statement in your later deliberations. You may not ask questions. It is the responsibility of the
I want to say
present
9.
the evidence. You must decide the case on the evidence presented to you. However, during the course of the trial, I may ask
motions for the response from Commonwealth about reimbursement and motion for ARCA, throwing the ARCA guys
I
out.
have any opinion with respect to that witness's credit.
I'm not covering it. I'll just cover it until we have a verdict because I'm not doing 3 weeks of a baby murder. No, sir, B. I can't do that again. I did Harmony Montgomery. That killed me. I think too much about this case with him stabulating the mom. It happens. But baby cases, I think too much about them.
Finally, during the course of the trial, I may have to interrupt the proceedings to confer with the attorneys about the rules of law that should apply. In some cases, we may have bench conferences in the courtroom outside of your hearing, and in some instances, I may ask you to retire to the jury room while we discuss the matter out of your presence. I ask your patience because these interruptions are necessary points in the trial where we have to resolve legal issues. If, after your deliberations, you find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder,
someone is having a bad day.
Sentencing, and you will set the punishment. If, after your deliberations, you find the defendant guilty of any other offense or offenses, the court will set the punishment at a separate sentencing hearing. The jury will not be involved in setting the punishment in those offenses. This completes my opening comments to you. We will now proceed with the reading of the presentment. General.
Thank you, Judge. Presentment, case number S-72-869, State of Tennessee, County of Sullivan. Criminal court charge, first-degree murder, count 1. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about December 2019, in the state and county aforesaid, and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, feloniously, intentionally, and with premeditation kill Evelyn May Boswell, contrary to Tennessee Code annotated section 39-13-202A1, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, signed Barry P. Staubus, District Attorney General. Charge, felony murder, count 2. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about December 2019, in the state and county aforesaid, and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully and feloniously kill Evelyn May Boswell, a human and being, said killing being committed in the perpetration of or attempt to perpetrate the felony crime of aggravated child abuse, contrary to Tennessee Code annotated section 39-13-202A2, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, Signed, Barry P. Staubus, District Attorney General. Charge, felony murder, count 3. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about December 2019, in the state and county aforesaid, and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully and feloniously kill Evelyn May Boswell, a human in being, said killing being committed in the perpetration of or attempt to perpetrate the felony crime of aggravated child neglect, contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 39-13-202A2, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Signed, Barry P. Staubus, District Attorney General. Charge, aggravated child abuse, count 4. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impounded and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about December 2019, in the state and county aforesaid, and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, feloniously, knowingly, and other than by accidental means, treat Evelyn May Boswell, date of birth November 21st, 2018, a child under 8 years of age, in such a manner as to inflict serious bodily injury, contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 39-15-402, a Class A felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Signed, Barry P. Staubus, District Attorney General. Charge, aggravated child neglect, count 5. The grand jurors for
Didn't you share this already, Jemima? I think she might have put it in there in documents. But it's just they talked about a lot of different dates the last time, and some of them will fall out, I bet.
Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about December 2019, in the state and county aforesaid, and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, feloniously, and knowingly neglect a child, Evelyn May Boswell, date of birth November 21st, 2018, a child 8 years of age or less, so as to adversely affect the child's health and welfare. And the act of neglect resulted in serious bodily injury to the child.
But thank you for the offer, Diane G.
Evelyn May Boswell. Contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 30.
She's charged with 2 counts of felony and 1 count of first degree. So, no, they have. When the court convened on Wednesday around 8:45, prosecutors began by stating they needed to dismiss count 18 against Boswell, one of the many accounts of false reports against her. So the rest is just false reports. That's just BS. It's the murder charges that's gonna mean something.
39-15-402.
And it's a life case. It's not
Class
a death
A
case.
felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Signed, Barry P. Staubus, District Attorney General. Charge, tampering with evidence, count 6. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about December 2019, in the state and county aforesaid, and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously alter, destroy, or conceal evidence with the intent to impair its availability, verity, or legibility as evidence in an investigation. The said Megan Boswell, knowing that an investigation was pending or in progress, contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 39-16-503, a Class C felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Signed, Barry P. Staubus, District Attorney General. Charge, false report, count 7. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about February 18th, 2020, in the state and county aforesaid, and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously
I'm not a
make
fan of them either, but
in response to a legitimate inquiry by Sullivan County Sheriff's Detective Tracy Haraz, a law enforcement officer, concerning a material fact about an offense or incident within the officer's concern, to wit, the disappearance of the defendant's infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, knowing that the statement was false and with the intent to obstruct or hinder the officer from preventing the offense or incident from occurring or continuing to occur. The said false statement concerning Evelyn Boswell and the defendant's claim that her infant child was with the child's father, Ethan Perry, contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 39-16-502, a Class D felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee.
I think
Signed, Barry
she changed the
Peace Office,
statement
District Attorney
7
General.
times.
Charge, false report, count 8. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about February 18th, 2020, in the state and county aforesaid and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously make a statement in response to a legitimate inquiry by Sullivan County Sheriff's Detectives Michelle Gillum and Tracy Haraz, law enforcement officers, concerning a material fact about an offense or incident within the officer's concern, to wit, the disappearance of the defendant's infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, knowing that the statement was false and with the intent to obstruct or hinder the officer from preventing the offense or incident from occurring or continuing to occur. The said false statement concerning the defendant's alleged lack of knowledge of the whereabouts of her infant daughter and her alleged efforts to locate her daughter, contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 39-16-502, a Class D felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Signed, Barry P. Staubus, District Attorney General. Charge, false report, count 9. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about February 18th, 2020, in the state and county aforesaid and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously make a statement in response to a legitimate inquiry by Sullivan County Sheriff's Detective Lieutenant Steve Williams, a law enforcement officer, concerning a material fact about an offense or incident within the officer's concern, to wit, the disappearance of the defendant's infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, knowing that the statement was false and with the intent to obstruct or hinder the officer from preventing the offense or incident from occurring or continuing to occur. The said false statement concerning the alleged last physical contact that the defendant had with her infant daughter and Ethan Perry's alleged refusal to respond to her text and voicemails regarding her daughter following an argument with Ethan Perry about the custody arrangements concerning her daughter. Contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 39-16-502, a Class D felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Signed, Barry P. Staubus, District Attorney General. Charge, false report, count 10. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about February 18th, 2020, in the state and county aforesaid and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously make a statement in response to a legitimate inquiry by Sullivan County Sheriff's Detective Captain Joey Strickler, a law enforcement officer, concerning a material fact about an offense or incident within the officer's concern, to wit, the disappearance of the defendant's infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, knowing that the statement was false and with the intent to obstruct or hinder the officer from preventing the offense or incident from occurring or continuing to occur. The said false statement concerning the defendant's alleged last physical contact with her infant daughter and the defendant's alleged lack of knowledge of the whereabouts of her infant daughter, even though she had concerns that her daughter was possibly injured. Contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 39-16-502, a Class D felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Signed, Barry P. Staubus, District Attorney General. Charge, false report, count 11. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath, present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about February 19th, 2020, in the state and county aforesaid and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously make a statement in response to a legitimate inquiry by Federal Bureau of Investigation agents Jeff Blanton and Todd Wilcox, law enforcement officers, concerning a material fact about an offense or incident within the officer's concern, to wit, the disappearance of the defendant's infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, knowing that the statement was false and with the intent to obstruct or hinder the officer from preventing the offense or incident from occurring or continuing to occur. The said false statement concerning the alleged time frame of when the defendant gave her infant daughter to Ethan Perry to keep, since she could not handle her daughter anymore, and Ethan Perry's alleged threats to take the defendant to court to address the custody of their daughter. Contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 39-16-502, a Class D felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Signed, Barry P. Staubus, District Attorney General. Charge, false report, count 12. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath, present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about February 20th, 2020, in the state and county aforesaid and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously make a statement in response to a legitimate inquiry by Sullivan County Sheriff's Detective Captain Joey Strickler, a law enforcement officer, concerning a material fact about an offense or incident within the officer's concern, to wit, the disappearance of the defendant's infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, knowing that the statement was false, and with the intent to obstruct or hinder the officer from preventing the offense or incident from occurring or continuing to occur. The said false statement concerning the defendant's alleged claim that she last saw her infant daughter in the custody of Ethan Perry on December 26, 2019, and that she had not contacted the police to report her missing child on the advice of Angela Boswell, the defendant's mother. Contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 39-16-502, a Class D felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, signed Barry P. Stavas, District Attorney General. Charge, false report, count 13. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about February 20th, 2020, in the state and county aforesaid and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously make a statement in response to a legitimate inquiry by Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Agent David Gratz and Sullivan County Sheriff's Detective Sergeant Matt Price, law enforcement officers, concerning a material fact about an offense or incident within the officer's concern, to wit, the disappearance of the defendant's infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, knowing that the statement was false and with the intent to obstruct or hinder the officer from preventing the offense or incident from occurring or continuing to occur. The said false statement concerning the defendant's mother, Angela Boswell, possibly having her infant daughter, but refusing to share with the defendant the location of her daughter and whether she had custody of the defendant's daughter. Contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 39-16-502, a Class D felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, signed Barry P. Stavas, District Attorney General. Charge, false report, count 14. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about February 20th, 2020, in the state and county aforesaid and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously make a statement in response to a legitimate inquiry by Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Agent David Gratz and Sullivan County Sheriff's Detective Sergeant Matt Price, law enforcement officers, concerning a material fact about an offense or incident within the officer's concern, to wit, the disappearance of the defendant's infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, knowing that the statement was false and with the intent to obstruct or hinder the officer from preventing the offense or incident from occurring or continuing to occur. The said false statement concerning the defendant's mother, Angela Boswell, allegedly having taken her infant daughter in mid-December of 2019 and refusing to tell the defendant of her daughter's location, and that she allegedly did not call the police to report her infant daughter missing out of fear that her mother, Angela Boswell, would harm Evelyn Boswell. Contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 39-16-502, a Class D felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, signed Barry P. Stavas, District Attorney General.
Oh, I'm not touching that one. Oh, no. I looked at it yesterday. Hate crimes. I thought I was in enough trouble yesterday, so I'm not giving Zach a case about hate crimes. But thank you for the heads up.
Charge, false report, count 15.
Come on, MG.
The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about February 20th, 2020, in the state and county aforesaid and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously make a statement in response to a legitimate inquiry by Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Agent David Gratz and Sullivan County Sheriff's Detective Sergeant Matt Price, law enforcement officers, concerning a material fact about an offense or incident within the officer's concern, to wit, the disappearance of the defendant's infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, knowing that the statement was false, and with the intent to obstruct or hinder the officer from preventing the offense or incident from occurring or continuing to occur. The said false statement concerning the defendant's mother, Angela Boswell, having allegedly taken her infant daughter because Angela Boswell believed that the defendant owed her money, and that the defendant's mother, Angela Boswell, had allegedly told her that Evelyn Boswell would not be returned to the defendant until the money was paid.
We're talking about one of the most horrible things, a small child missing. This guy reads it so it sounds like it's a grocery list. Have we seen this, Judge, before?
Contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 39-16-502, a Class D felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, signed Barry P. Stavas, District Attorney General. Charge, false report, count 16. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about February 21st, 2020, in the state and county aforesaid and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously make a statement in response to a legitimate inquiry by Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Agent David Gratz and Sullivan County Sheriff's Detective Sergeant Matt Price, law enforcement officers, concerning a material fact about an offense or incident within the officer's concern, to wit, the disappearance of the defendant's infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, knowing that the statement was false and with the intent to obstruct or hinder the officer from preventing the offense or incident from occurring or continuing to occur. The said false statement concerning her mother, Angela Boswell, allegedly having Evelyn Boswell at an unknown location, and that despite the efforts of the defendant to find her infant daughter, she allegedly did not know the whereabouts of her infant daughter and did not have any additional information to provide to law enforcement in their attempts to find the missing child. Contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 39-16-502, a Class D felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, signed Barry P. Stavas, District Attorney General. Charge, false report, count 17. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about February 23rd, 2020, in the state and county aforesaid, and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously make a statement in response to a legitimate inquiry by Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Assistant Agent in Charge, Chris Wilhoit, a law enforcement officer, concerning a material fact about an offense or incident within the officer's concern, to wit, the disappearance of the defendant's infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, knowing that the statement was false and with the intent to obstruct or hinder the officer from preventing the offense or incident from occurring or continuing to occur, concerning the defendant's mother, Angela Boswell, allegedly having given the defendant's infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, to another person who Angela Boswell refused to name, and that her infant child was safe and would have a better life with the unknown person than with the defendant. Contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 39-16-502, a Class D felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, signed Barry P. Stavas, District Attorney General. Charge of use of a corpse, count 19. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about December 2019, in the state and county aforesaid, and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously, and without legal privilege, physically mistreat a corpse in a manner offensive to the sensibilities of an ordinary person, contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 39-17-312, a Class E felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Signed, Barry P. Stavas, District Attorney General. Charge, failure to report a death under suspicious, unusual, or unnatural circumstances. Count 20. The grand jurors for Sullivan County, Tennessee, being duly impaneled and sworn, upon their oath present and say that Megan Boswell, on or about December 2019, in the state and county aforesaid, and before the finding of this presentment, did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously fail to report the death of her infant daughter, Evelyn Boswell, to the county medical examiner, local police, district attorney general, or sheriff, where the death was from violence, trauma, or in any suspicious, unusual, or unnatural manner, contrary to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 38-7-108, a Class E felony, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Signed, Barry P. Stavas, District Attorney General. True bill was returned 22nd day of May 2024, and it's signed Sally Sierra, foreman of the grand jury.
Mr. Scott, how does Ms. Boswell plead to each count?
Defendant pleads not guilty in every count.
Thanks, sir.
Right.
General, you have opening statements?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Good morning. Today we're going to talk about Evelyn Boswell for a few minutes. In 2019, Evelyn Boswell was a bright, growing little girl, full of life, healthy, learning to walk, learning to talk, doing all the things that a 12-month-old child would do. Which means today, 5 years later, Evelyn Boswell would be 6 years old. She would be possibly in kindergarten, learning to read, maybe taking her first ballet class or her first soccer game, learning to tie her shoes, all of the things that we think of that are firsts for 6-year-old children. But based upon the last 2 days of our jury selection, we all know that Evelyn Boswell is not going to do any of those things. We all know that all of that was taken away from her in December of 2019 by the defendant, Megan Boswell. And her life wasn't just cut short. It's not just a tragedy. Her life was violently ripped away from her. And we can all agree that it's a shock. It's a tragedy when a child dies. It's upsetting. It upsets all of us. You'll hear phrases like "gone too soon," "what a tragedy." A child had such a life ahead of them. And a lot of times it is a tragedy. And in this case, it's a tragedy too. But in this case, it was a preventable tragedy. There's so much more to this story that you are going to hear. Because Evelyn did not have to die. Evelyn could be here today. And so today, 5 years.
Yeah, I can't sit through 3 weeks of a baby murder. I just can't do it. We can look at it now when it's just opening statements, and hopefully I can tell you that verdict clock has reached 6 hours. 6 hours, and I think 10% thought it would be 6+ hours. So hopefully they'll be back soon, because I really can't do these cases. Yes, the prosecutor did read all the charges.
Years later, we are asking you to give justice to Evelyn Boswell. During this trial, you will learn that the one person, Evelyn's mother, Megan Boswell, who was entrusted more than anyone else to take care of her, to keep her safe, to protect her, that she failed her in the worst possible way. You will hear proof that the last time Evelyn Boswell was seen alive was December 6th, 2019. You're going to hear that date a few times during this trial. That is the last
Maybe there are two
time
prosecutors.
that Evelyn Boswell was seen alive. And that was just a few weeks after her first birthday. And you're going to hear from many witnesses who saw Evelyn frequently, saw her all the time, family members, Megan Boswell's friends, that all of a sudden are like, where's Evelyn? Where's Evelyn? We're not seeing.
Yeah, I had the feeling yesterday that when they were asking for the two linear witnesses, they were going for. They already were agreeing on the red rum part. They just were fighting over the kidnapping charge, but they've been back for an hour now, and if it was only the kidnapping, they would have squared that in an hour.
Concerned, and they would ask Megan Boswell about it, and every time Megan had an answer. Megan concocted a story, and I'm not going to tell you now what she said. You're going to hear that in the proof, but she told all kinds of different stories depending on the person that she was talking to. And you will hear from those witnesses today, but you will hear, or this week, but you will hear there was concern. You know, they knew Megan. They thought they knew Megan, I should say. And so they wanted to trust that what she was telling them was the truth. But it wasn't, it was not the truth. So after December, what happens next? We have Christmas, New Year's. Where's Evelyn? There is no Evelyn. You will not see any proof that Evelyn was seen at Christmas, New Year's. Then we jump to January. The entire month of January 2020, 31 days. Where's Evelyn? There's no Evelyn. People are.
How can you live with your family or just, I don't know. It's so weird to me that you could live with yourself doing stuff like this.
Really starting to get concerned, and Megan Boswell continues to concoct stories of where Evelyn is to try to help people make sense so she can keep this going. The entire month of February 2020. Where's Evelyn? Again, at this point, family is really starting to get concerned that they have not seen Evelyn. And they're asking questions. Months pass. We're not talking about weeks. We are talking about over 2.5 months that Evelyn Boswell is missing. The defendant is not even just canceling her well visits. She's no-showing. She's just not showing up because she knows where Evelyn is. But again, even to the pediatrician's office, she has to concoct a story about forgetting the appointment maybe, or I got my days mixed up. Always a story. Always a story. So we know now.
Zachariah, welcome to the channel. I have a rule. The more people ask for wrenches, the less likely I am to give them a wrench. The only one who, of course, is given a wrench when he asks for it is Valhalla, because he lies about baby goats.
We did not know then, but we know now that from early December, Evelyn Boswell, even though it had not been reported by Megan Boswell, Evelyn Boswell was a missing child from early December until almost the end of February. She was a missing child. And the only person who knew that, the person who was entrusted to take care of her the most, is the only person who knew that Evelyn was actually missing. And she just left it unreported. Over 2 months later, finally, Megan Boswell's dad, Tommy Boswell, finally essentially puts an ultimatum down on his daughter and says, I'm tired of the stories. If you don't show me my grandchild by the next day, I'm essentially calling the police. Well, Megan knew she could not.
How much for 10,000 subs? Asking for friends.
Do that. And she did not do that. And Tommy Boswell finally was the one to report Evelyn missing on February 18th of 2020. Finally, law enforcement gets involved. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation gets involved. The FBI gets involved. All hands on deck to find this missing child. She's finally reported missing. But it's important to note that it was not Megan Boswell that reported her child missing. Megan Boswell never reported her child missing. So you're going to hear from December of 2019 until February of 2020, when it's finally reported that the defendant's biggest believable story, that really is probably what kept the family from reporting earlier, is she was saying that Evelyn was with her father, Ethan Perry. And you'll hear a lot about Ethan Perry, and you'll get to hear from Ethan Perry yourselves. Ethan Perry is actually not Evelyn's father, but Megan led him to believe that he was the father. And everyone,
Yes.
for all purposes, also believed Ethan Perry was the father. So to the family, they're like, well, that's good. He's stepping up. The father's stepping up. That's good. We're proud of him. And that is the story that Megan Boswell told mostly to her family, to her friends. You were going to hear a lot of testimony about her just telling everyone that Ethan Perry has gotten Evelyn. First, you'll hear that they're trading weeks, but doesn't make sense because people are still not seeing Evelyn. So then Megan took it one step further, where he took her to court and got emergency custody, blaming her for something. And again, not true. There was never court. There were no documents. Juvenile court was never involved. It was just another story that Megan Boswell was telling because she knew where Evelyn was, and she had to keep perpetuating this lie. Interestingly enough, she didn't think it through completely because Ethan Perry at the time was in the Army in Louisiana. He lived in barracks, and I think we all understand and know that in the barracks, there's not going to be a toddler running around. But Megan Boswell, in perpetuating that story, she didn't care. She got the entire Army involved in this to go investigate.
No, Crispy, this is a horrible unaliving of a kid the mom is charged with. I'm not going to cover it. It's just so long as we are on Verdict Watch. Verdict Watch is 6 hours and 15 minutes so far. No questions have been asked since yesterday.
Investigate this poor guy who was trying to serve our country in Louisiana, pulling him out of his duty. I can't imagine the chaos that caused, all because Megan Boswell wanted to perpetuate this lie.
I think she's mid-20s. I'm not sure.
And Ethan Perry didn't even see Evelyn in December. You will hear that he came in to visit his grandparents on leave. He never saw Evelyn Boswell over Christmas or over December. We all know why now. But at the time, Megan again tells the story. Evelyn has the flu. She can't come. And you will hear the testimony that no one, not Ethan Perry or anyone else, saw Evelyn Boswell in December. The hard part. From early December.
Thank you, Tim Swoop, for celebrating with us that you found your iPod earbuds.
2019 until later when her body was found, Evelyn was always in the same place. And Megan Boswell knew that. Megan Boswell knew that because she is the one that put Evelyn there She placed Evelyn's body in a kitchen trash can, her own trash can from her home, from the trailer that she shared with Evelyn. And
10% of men aren't, 10% of fathers aren't fathers.
she hid that trash can in her own childhood playhouse on her father's property, a playhouse that you will see no one has been in for a very long time, and that it was Megan's. It was personal to Megan, not to anyone else. And you're going to hear that Evelyn was put into the trash can upside down is the best way to describe it, head down, in a bag of trash filled with food debris, broken eggs, her body just placed in there by the defendant. You will see that there was a blanket tightly wrapped around Evelyn's body, pulled up over her face, and quite a bit of aluminum foil then wrapped around her head. The blanket completely covering her face, the foil completely covering her head. Upside down in a trash can, still in her purple fleece onesie and diaper. And as terrible as it is to say, you are going to hear that she just wasn't placed in the trash can, but then another trash bag was placed on top of her. And that trash bag was shoved down into the trash can, compressing Evelyn into the trash can. That's what we're
To get out of it, of course.
dealing with today. And you're going to hear proof that directly links only one person to this crime, this horrendous crime. You are going to hear that the only person linked to this crime is sitting at this table right here. You're going to hear it from many witnesses. You're going to hear all of the stories that she concocted, the lies that she told, and you're going to hear forensic evidence that links the defendant, Megan Boswell, and only the defendant, Megan Boswell, to this crime. One step further. This entire time, Evelyn is decaying, decomposing in this trash can, again, upside down and compressed. What is Megan Boswell doing? Is she mourning her child? Is she worried? Is she...
I'm betting it's going to be postpartum.
Scared? What is she doing? What would a mother be doing? Well,
no, Tennessee
it's not
has
what Megan Boswell was doing.
Tennessee has put a hold on their death cases, so it's only a life.
And you're going to hear that because Megan Boswell got a new boyfriend, and it conveniently happened at pretty much exactly the same time that Evelyn disappears. When no one sees Evelyn again, Megan Boswell has decided she's just going to, Evelyn just out of the head, and she's moving on with her life. And she is living her best life, and you will hear that. She has this new boyfriend.
Yeah, postpartum is very serious, but it's also very convenient in cases like this or cases with children abuse, where they can always just, well, I had postpartum, but it wasn't diagnosed at the time. I know it's a horrendous thing to go through. I've seen people who had it, and it's horrendous.
And who has money, or at least she thinks he has money, and she's going to have a better life for herself, not her child, but for herself. You will hear that she takes trips. She's clearly falling in love. She moves out of the trailer that she was living in with her child and moves in with this guy within weeks into his home in a very nice neighborhood in Blunteville, Tennessee. You are going to hear testimony that Megan Boswell is taking trips to Gatlinburg, to Pigeon Forge, staying at Margaritaville Hotel, all while her child is upside down decomposing in a trash can. You will never hear that Megan Boswell was upset, mourning her child, crying. All she does is continue to concoct lies to cover up what she did. Is that what a mother does? So you will hear that when Tommy Boswell reports, it's essentially all hands on deck with law enforcement. Immediately, law enforcement goes into action, and you are going to hear so much proof about how much effort went into finding this baby, how much time and hours worked by every law enforcement agency in North Carolina, East Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, everyone putting their efforts into trying to find this little girl and hoping, just hoping to find her alive. So then Megan Boswell then, of course, comes clean, right? Once law enforcement's involved, because Megan knows where Evelyn is, so she's gonna tell law enforcement, right? The answer is no, and you probably can gather that by General Harper reading the indictment for about 40 minutes this morning. Megan Boswell continues to perpetuate her stories, concocting anything, blaming anyone else, Ethan Perry, for a day, 2 days. She continues that story of Ethan Perry. Then you'll hear she admits that's not true. So then she tries to blame her mom, her own mom. She decides to try to blame to try to get out of this because she knows this snowball is rolling down this hill and she's trying to stop it the best she can. Why is she doing that?
It's because I won't give him a wrench.
It's because she knows that she brutally murdered her child and she's trying to cover it up. And maybe she had that hope that Evelyn would never be found. And even to this day, 5 years later, Evelyn would still be a missing child. The defense said something really interesting in jury selection yesterday afternoon that I want to touch on. He said to you, you only have one chance to get this right. Do you remember that?
You only got one chance.
Then he said, Megan only has one chance to get this right. Do you remember that? I submit to you, Megan Boswell has already had her chance. She was gifted with a beautiful child. A healthy, vibrant.
This is why I can't do. I just had my grandson, and I'm just sitting here picturing him. He's started talking to the wall now, laughing and just baby chit chat and telling stories, and you just sit here and think, oh my God, this is horrendous. It's yeah. I really don't like these cases.
Vibrant little girl. Evelyn was perfect. Megan Boswell already had her chance. So today is Evelyn's chance. Today is our chance to get it right, not Megan's. Today's our chance to get it right for Evelyn. I know this is not easy for any of you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just can't sit through this. It's I don't know why it's. I'm a cold-hearted bastard, but
I'm Jimmy. How y'all doing? Yes.
When did you first meet Maureen?
This is in the summer of 14.
And where did you meet her?
I don't know. I don't think I can do this. Jemima sent me something we can watch instead. It's an old case about something. And now I can't find it. Yeah. Let's do that instead so I don't have to sit here and cry. This is an old case. I'm sorry if you really want to watch the baby. I can't sit and listen to. I'm thinking too much of my grandson. So this is Ashley MacArthur, who is a 42-year-old. It's an old case. It's 6 years old. She's on trial in Pensacola for first-degree red rum in the death of a private investigator, Taylor Wright. If convicted, she expected to get an automatic life sentence. It's an old case, so we'll just do it in snippets whenever we need to fill some time. This judge looks absolutely psycho.
Turn it over to you.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Defense. So this case involves a lot of different pieces of information and a lot of different witnesses. So what I'm about to do for you in my opening statement, hopefully, is give you a very general outline of what this case is about. And then as you hear each witness testify, and as you see...
Interesting. Jemima, can you see if you can find that one and we might be able to look at that? No, I would rather lose a few viewers. Recovery Addict is covering it. I just can't. I have one of those little screens for my Google system, and like 50% of the pictures on it is just a little baby, and who's getting christened in next week. So not the right time to do a baby case. I'm sorry.
Each exhibit and each piece of evidence, it's going to fill in the details of the outline for you. And when it all comes together.
Can I show a little bit more of the case where the guy says, sure, everyone did? Oh, you're talking, well, I can't show more of the case because I have rewatched the good parts of that case. He wasn't part of the case, sadly. He wasn't found as a witness, but...
While I'm waiting for this, did you, whether it's true or not, believe that Mr. Randolph had slept with your wife?
I wouldn't have cared.
You wouldn't have cared?
No.
Did you believe he had slept with your wife?
No.
Did you believe he slept with your mother-in-law?
Probably did. Everybody has. Everybody has.
The judge is like, the hell did you just...
This case is the Ashley MacArthur case, out of the famous MacArthur family. You know them.
What you will see at the end is that Taylor Wright was murdered by this defendant, Ashley MacArthur. And really what you will see in the end is that Ashley MacArthur had the motive to kill Taylor Wright, money. She had the opportunity to kill Taylor Wright. She did, in fact, kill Taylor Wright, and then she tried to cover it up. But to get to that ending, we have to start at the beginning. In mid-2017, Taylor Wright...
It's very Jackie Kennedy-esque, this suit.
The deceased in this case was entangled in some court proceedings and some financial issues with her ex-husband, Jeff Wright. And while that was all going on, Taylor Wright withdrew $100,000 from the bank when she wasn't supposed to. And then she was trying to hide that money from her ex-husband. Taylor was transferring money to other accounts. She was withdrawing cash. She was taking out cashier's checks. And she also asked her friend, this defendant, Ashley MacArthur, to help hide the money. Now, Ashley MacArthur at the time was running a business that her parents opened some time ago called Pensacola Automatic Amusement. They supplied pool tables, jukeboxes, video games to local bars and businesses. One of those businesses that Ashley worked with was Sticks Billiards or Sticks Pool Hall. And you will hear that Ashley MacArthur was romantically involved with the owner of that bar. And the only reason that matters for your purposes is because she was trying to help his business financially. And she was also spending a lot of money on him personally. So at the time when Taylor Wright is trying to hide this money from her ex-husband, Ashley MacArthur had a number of bank accounts, personal and business. And on August 10th of 2017, Ashley MacArthur added Taylor Wright to one of those accounts. A few weeks after that, in early September of 2017, Taylor Wright had a court date that was coming up with her ex-husband. And Taylor told this defendant, Ashley MacArthur, repeatedly that she needed to get to the bank. She needed to get to the bank, she needed to get her money out, and she needed to put it in an escrow account with this mess with her ex-husband, or she was going to be in trouble with the court. You will see those text messages, and the reason they're important is because you will see the pressure that Taylor Wright was putting on Ashley MacArthur to get this money. And the reason that matters is because the money was gone. Ashley MacArthur had spent it.
This is 6 years old.
The text messages that you will see start August 29th of 2017. A message from Taylor to this defendant. She texted, I need to get the keys to the safety deposit box. I've got to get this ring in there. I can't be running around with $50K in my bag. August 31st, text message from Taylor to this defendant. If at all possible, can we go to the bank today? I've got to get this done. My account closed and my jewelry in the safety deposit box. Court is next week. On September 4th, a message from Taylor to this defendant. I have to get to the bank tomorrow. On September 5th, a message from Taylor to this defendant. Any idea on a time to go to the bank? Again, on September 5th, a message from Taylor to this defendant. We only have 2 more hours to get to the bank. You almost ready? September 5th, this defendant sent a text to Taylor, said, just called the bank. They closed at 4. We have to go in the morning. What time are you free? September 6th, Taylor again sent a message to this defendant. I have to get in that deposit box today and get those papers submitted by 4. I'm out of time. Again, on September 6th, Taylor sent a message to this defendant. Ash, there is no way I will make it there and to the bank in 10 minutes. Again, on September 6th, a message from Taylor to the defendant. They are going to hold me in contempt for not paying child support and not putting the $25K into the escrow account. On September 7th, Taylor sent a message to this defendant. I've got to get to the bank ASAP this morning and get into the box and deposit that money. A few minutes later, she sent another text to this defendant. I'm going to be held in contempt if I don't get that money in the escrow account. Again, on September 7th, Taylor sent a message to this defendant. They could potentially put me in jail if I don't pay the child support like today. September 7th, text message from Taylor to the defendant. Please don't be late. They're going to put me in jail if I don't make that deposit today. Again, on September 7th, Taylor sent a message to this defendant. They are going to check your ID in order to get into that box. So I need you to come with me. September 7th, around 2 p.m., Taylor sent a message to the defendant, said, waiting on you at my house. Bank closes at 4. This is way too important for me not to do today. I'm under a court order or my ass will get thrown in jail. Later that same day, as that
Language.
text on September 7th, Taylor was at a restaurant called Twin Peaks over on Bayou Boulevard with her girlfriend. And as I explained to you in jury selection, Taylor had previously been married to a man. They had a child together. But at the time of this incident, she was dating a lady named Cassandra Waller. So Taylor and Cassandra were at Twin Peaks on September 7th. And this defendant, Ashley MacArthur, met them up there. And you will hear that Taylor and Ashley made plans on the 7th for Ashley to pick Taylor up the next morning on Friday, September 8th. And they were going to go to the bank. Friday, September 8th, 2017 is the last day that Taylor Wright is known to be alive. She was with this defendant, Ashley MacArthur, and they were supposed to be going to the bank. Taylor Wright was never seen alive again.
Yeah, Valhalla wouldn't take me to Twin Peaks either. I wanted to go, but Valhalla said, no, it's not for you.
So on September 8th, as planned, this defendant showed up at Cassandra Waller's house to pick up Taylor Wright. And the reason she went to Cassandra's house is because Taylor was in the process of moving in. As a matter of fact, a lot of her belongings were boxed up in a box truck that belonged to Ashley MacArthur, and it was parked in Cassandra's driveway. But in any event, Ashley showed up at
I've heard they have good chest pillows. Oh, Brandon got a dog that didn't pee in the bed last night.
Cassandra's that morning as planned. At around 10 o'clock that morning, Taylor and Ashley left together. And then Cassandra went about her business that day. She sent Taylor a couple of text messages that morning, and she would get responses from Taylor. But the text messages from Taylor stopped.
We are still verdict watching, and we are watching a 5-year-old case of lady unaliving her ex.
Around 11:30 that morning on September 8th. Cassandra sent Taylor a couple of more texts after lunch, and there was absolutely no response from Taylor. Finally, around 4 o'clock, Cassandra sent a text to this defendant. She said, "Are you okay? Taylor has not responded to me in hours." This defendant replied, "Yes, ma'am." Cassandra texted back and said, "Can you please have Taylor call me?" Within that minute of that text, this defendant called Cassandra. And she said her and Taylor were at a farm out in Milton, and that Taylor was riding a horse at that moment. You will see during the course of this trial that at the time Ashley made that call and said that her and Taylor were out at a farm in Milton, she was actually in Pensacola. Police obtained her cell tower records, and those cell tower records show the tower location of when a cell phone makes a call. She was not anywhere near Milton when she made that phone call to Cassandra. But during this conversation, Cassandra said, "Please have Taylor call me when she's done riding this horse." Around 7:30 p.m. that same day, all on September 8th, this is 3.5 hours after Ashley said,
If both of them are in your phone under booty, it's your own fault.
they were in Milton and Taylor was on a horse. Cassandra still had not heard from Taylor. She texted Ashley MacArthur, this defendant, again. She said, "This isn't okay." Ashley called Cassandra shortly after that. And Ashley said that after her and Taylor left this farm in Milton, they went back to Ashley's house. And around 5 or 5:15, Taylor said she was going to call an Uber and she was going to have a drink. And then Ashley never saw her again. Within about 20 minutes of this phone call between Ashley and Cassandra, Cassandra received a text from Taylor's phone. And it said something to the effect of, "I'll call you later. I need to get my life organized." What will be clear to you by the end of this trial is that
I never heard about it, so no spoilers, please.
this defendant sent that text from Taylor's phone to Cassandra. because Taylor was
No, we're still on verdict watch. They have been on verdict watch for close to 6 hours and 42 minutes.
dead at that point, and this defendant still had her cell phone. Later that
But you can just ask Valhalla. He knows all of them.
same night, again on September 8th, just before midnight, this defendant sent Cassandra a text and said, I just got a text from Taylor. And then she screenshotted it and sent it to Cassandra. And it was Taylor supposedly saying, I'm okay, I just need time to think, that court was stressing her out. And again, what will be clear to you is that Taylor did not send that text. It was this defendant, because this defendant had Taylor's phone. On Saturday, September 9th, there was still nothing from Taylor. On Sunday, September 10th, Cassandra called the Pensacola Police Department. But at that point, it had only been 48 hours since Taylor had gone missing. On Monday, September 11th, Cassandra had still not heard from Taylor. And what you will hear is that her and Taylor had kind of been having some issues. There was a meeting that Taylor and Cassandra had at Ashley MacArthur's house where Taylor had admitted she'd been talking to somebody else and she had tried cocaine a few times. So when Cassandra didn't hear from Taylor for a few days, she was upset, she was angry, all these things came back, and she wanted Taylor's stuff gone from her house. So Cassandra called this defendant, Ashley MacArthur, and said, hey, can you come get your box truck with all of Taylor's stuff in it, and can we put it at your business? The Pensacola Automatic Amusement had a very large warehouse. So Taylor's belongings were taken to that warehouse on September 11th. On Thursday, September 12th, there was still nothing from Taylor. On Wednesday, the 13th, there was still nothing from Taylor. On Thursday, September 14th, Cassandra went to the police department and formally filed a missing persons report. That same day, Cassandra and Ashley went through Taylor's car, which was parked at Cassandra's house, and they found some guns that Taylor had in there. This defendant took some pictures of them, sent them to Cassandra, I guess, for documentation purposes. And Ashley agreed to keep Taylor's guns in her safe. Friday, September 15th, Detective Richard Gigliotti with the Pensacola Police Department was assigned to the case. And obviously one of the first people that he wants to speak with is Ashley MacArthur. She was the last person known to be with Taylor Wright. So he called Ashley MacArthur on the phone, and she basically said, yes, we're friends. We were together on September 8th. I picked her up. We ran around. We went to this farm in Milton. And then we went back to my house and Taylor left. A few days later, Detective Gigliotti went to Cassandra's home and was going through some of Taylor's belongings that were still there. And he found a $19,000 cashier's check made out to Taylor Wright and thought, why would someone voluntarily go missing and leave behind $19,000? It's a lot of money. That same day, Detective Gigliotti went to Ashley MacArthur's house. She was home that day with her husband, Zach MacArthur. And Detective Gigliotti had a recording device. And so you will hear the conversation he had with Ashley MacArthur on that day. But she essentially gave the same timeline. She said that Taylor was upset on the 8th about this impending court date. She was worried about going to jail. She was hiding money from Jeff. This defendant described this farm in Milton that her and Taylor supposedly went to on September 8th. And it's way out in East Milton, past the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office. And when discussing this Milton farm, she was specifically asked by Detective Gigliotti if there were any other farms or properties that she went to. And this defendant said, my aunt has some property at the north end of the county, but we don't really go there. And Detective Gigliotti said, well, do you have an address? She said, I don't, but I'll get it for you. That same day, Detective Gigliotti asked Ashley if she would come down to the police station and give a formal interview, which she did. And you will see and hear that interview. She again gave the same timeline, a little more detail, said she picked up Ashley that morning, picked up Taylor that morning. They ran around. They went to Beulah to look at some house or something that Taylor was looking at in her private investigating business. They stopped at a gas station in Beulah. They went to another place off a scenic highway, and then they went out to this farm in Milton. She said after the farm in Milton, they went back to her house. Again, Taylor said she was going to get an Uber, and then Ashley went inside, and when she came out, Taylor was gone. During this interview on September 18th, Detective Gigliotti again asked about this property at the North End. When he asked what road it was off, this defendant said, "I can get it for you." Well, ladies and gentlemen, the road is her middle name. It's Britt Road. She's Ashley Britt MacArthur. It's named after her family. Detective Gigliotti did not know anything about that at the time he was speaking with Ashley, but she never got back to him about this property or provided any information. Detective Gigliotti said, "Well, when you get this information about this other farm, please let me know. I'd like to see what I can do about getting out there." She also told Detective Gigliotti on this date that Taylor Wright had never been to that property on the North End. On September 24th, this defendant called Detective Gigliotti and asked if there were any updates. She told him that she thought Taylor was most comfortable in Destin, and that's probably where she was. On September 28th, this defendant called Detective Gigliotti again and asked.
We are still on Verdict Watch, 6 hours and 48 minutes. And thank you so much, Ross Quills, for Betsy. Thank you for 5 corner kisses. You're way too kind, and I shouldn't lose my head like that. But thank you so much. We are still on Verdict Watch for. Oh, now I put it down there. I can't see it. 6 hours and 50 minutes. No questions has been asked since yesterday. They have been back deliberating, and we tried to look at a kid case out of Tennessee, but I just can't. I just started thinking about my grandson, so we switched to an old case instead from Florida about a lady who unalived, allegedly, her ex-husband. We'll find out where it goes. It's going to be one of those placeholders you can just play when we are on Verdict Watch and stuff like that. Woohoo!
Asked about any updates. October 2nd, the defendant called Detective Gigliotti again, asked about any updates. This time she said maybe they should check treatment centers.
Giggity, giggity, giggity.
On October 19th, 2017, Ashley MacArthur was interviewed again at the Pensacola Police Department.
6 hours, 50 minutes, and 20
But by this
seconds.
point, the investigators had gotten Ashley's cell phone tower records, and they'd also gotten Taylor's cell phone tower records. And they found out where this property was at the north end of the county, the one that she had kept acting like she didn't know the name of. The address is actually 2201 Britt Road. And they had gotten bank records for Taylor and for Ashley. And what they found was that there was a $34,000 cashier's check made out to Taylor Wright that was deposited in August of 2017. And they asked Ashley about this cashier's check, and she acknowledged that she did deposit that check. The signature did not look anything like Taylor Wright's. This defendant said she did not sign it, but she did deposit it. She was then again asked about her whereabouts on the 8th. She stayed with the same timeline, the farm in Milton, this gas station in Beulah. And then you will see that she was confronted with her cell phone tower records. And they show that she was not at this farm in Milton at the time that she says her and Taylor were out there on September 8th. But instead, her cell phone was using towers near the property off of Britt Road, the property that she kept dodging questions about, the same property that she said Taylor had never been to. But now on October 19th of 2017, this defendant said that she and Taylor did go out to that property on September 8th of 2017, the last day Taylor was seen and known to be alive. And she said they went out there to pick up some lockbox that Taylor had put out there. And the police were like, why in the world have you never mentioned this before? By that point, Taylor had been missing almost 6 weeks. This defendant had talked to the police over the phone and in interviews for hours and never said anything about them being out at this property at the North End. Her response, this defendant said, well, Taylor asked me not to tell anyone, ever. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that same day, on October 19th of 2017, while this defendant was being interviewed, police were executing a search warrant out at that property on Britt Road. And located along a fence line in a wooded area were the remains of Taylor Wright.
I think it's because they think, well, it's going to roll into the... In Denmark, we have a thing where lessers will just be absorbed, so we don't find... Even though we find them guilty in things like obstruction, it'll be rolled into the bigger crime, so it doesn't matter.
She was skeletonized. She was wrapped in a hammock. She had a bullet hole in the back right side of her skull.
Oh, so I read it wrong. I thought it was her ex-husband. I don't know anything.
Now
I have to look it
and
up.
she had potting soil and concrete poured on top of her. A few days after Taylor's body was found on Britt Road, an investigator went to the Home Depot out there on 9 Mile and located a video of this defendant, Ashley MacArthur, in Home Depot buying potting soil and concrete on September 9th.
Oh, former crime scene investigator 42-year-old Ashley MacArthur is on trial for the 2017 unaliving of Taylor Wright. Prosecutor says MacArthur did it because she owed her $34,000.
The day after Taylor went missing and was last seen with Ashley MacArthur.
Then I'll update the banner again.
You will see through the evidence and by the end of the trial that Ashley MacArthur had the motive, Ashley MacArthur had the opportunity, and Ashley MacArthur tried to cover it up. And again, I am giving you a very general outline of what this case is about. And as you hear from the witnesses and you see the exhibits and the evidence, it will fill in the detail for you. And at the end of the trial, you will be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that Ashley MacArthur murdered Taylor Wright, and she did it over money. Taylor's money that Taylor needed back, but that Ashley MacArthur had already spent.
Thank you.
Mr. John Barassa.
Thank you. May it please the court, Ms. Jensen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Well, here we go. There is no question that what happened to Taylor Wright is a tragedy. No one in this courtroom is going to dispute that. On October 19, 2017, Taylor Wright's body was found in a shallow grave off a fence line on the Britt family farm with a gunshot wound to the back of her head. Now, during this trial, there will be no evidence introduced showing you exactly when and where Taylor Wright was killed. What the evidence is going to show you is that sometime around September 8th, 2017, that was a Friday, into September 9th, 2017, that Taylor Wright stopped communicating with people she knew. But you're going to learn from the evidence that that was not exactly surprising for Taylor Wright, given everything that she had going on in her life at that time. You see, recently, Taylor Wright had gone through a contentious divorce with her ex-husband, Jeff Wright. And in the summer of 2017, things were amped up between Jeff Wright and Taylor Wright. Mr. Wright was alleging that Taylor Wright had recently taken somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 from a joint account. And Mr. Wright was fighting to try to get this money back from Taylor Wright. according to Mr. Wright, he's going to tell you that Taylor Wright is making this extremely difficult to deal with this money. Mr. Wright is having to resort to taking Taylor Wright back to court to deal with this money. In fact, you will see that on September 7th, 2017, a Thursday, there was a hearing scheduled in Okaloosa County to deal with this money issue between Jeff Wright and Taylor Wright. And this is just a day or two before Taylor Wright stops communicating with people. Now, the evidence is going to show you that Miss Wright did not appear for this hearing in Okaloosa County to deal with this money. Mr. Wright, the evidence will show you that he's clearly frustrated with Taylor Wright, and he's not surprised at all when she doesn't show up to court on September 7th, 2017. You're going to hear from witnesses that know Taylor Wright that would tell you that she was consumed in this battle with her ex-husband and had a win-at-all-cost attitude against Jeff Wright. Now, as those issues with Taylor Wright and Jeff Wright are going on, at the same time, spring 2017, Taylor Wright meets a woman named Cassandra Waller. Most people that know Cassandra Waller refer to her as Cass. You may hear some witnesses talk about Cass. Soon after Taylor Wright met Miss Waller, they became involved in a romantic relationship. The evidence is going to show you that this was described as a volatile relationship. You see, just weeks before Taylor Wright stops communicating while in this relationship with Miss Waller, the relationship hits several snags. First, Cassandra Waller learns that Taylor Wright is continuing some sort of relationship with another woman over in Biloxi, Mississippi area.
Oh.
Additionally, it comes to Miss Waller's attention that Taylor Wright is also possibly using illegal drugs. Now, as you can imagine, none of this sits well with Cassandra Waller. Doesn't make her happy at all, and she wants to end the relationship at that time. She's clearly frustrated with Taylor Wright. Now, they do attempt to move past these incidents in late July, early August of 2017. What they do is they suggest that Taylor Wright move in with Cassandra Waller into Cassandra Waller's house. This happens end of August of 2017, beginning of September of 2017. So about a week or two before Taylor Wright stops communicating with people she knows. Now, the evidence is going to show you this is how Taylor Wright moves into Cassandra Waller's house. She doesn't really move in. She has a moving truck or a box truck that's loaded with all her belongings that sits at Cassandra Waller's driveway. For weeks, it sits in that driveway. You're going to see from the evidence that when Miss Waller couldn't get in touch with Taylor Wright on September 8, 2017, her first emotion was not really concern, but frustration and anger with Taylor Wright. Here we go again, Taylor Wright, doing the same things you always do. September 8th, September 9th, 2017, Taylor Wright had a lot of things going on. Now, at some point, after no one heard from Taylor Wright for an extended period of time, somewhere around September 14th, an investigation was officially started into Taylor Wright's disappearance. As this investigation was ongoing, you will learn that our client, Mrs. MacArthur, spoke with law enforcement on several occasions, as the state laid out in their opening statement. Some of these conversations that our client had with law enforcement were face-to-face conversations. Some were over the phone. Some took place down at the Pensacola Police Department. The evidence will show you that Mrs. MacArthur, while being questioned about Taylor Wright and what she knew, was not always forthcoming with all the information she had, that she did not provide complete information on everything she knew about Taylor Wright. For example, you will hear about an interview between Ashley MacArthur and law enforcement that took place on October 19, 2017. During that time, she was talking to law enforcement, and they were asking about her whereabouts with Taylor Wright on September 8th, 2017. And the evidence will show you that Ashley MacArthur lied. She did not tell law enforcement about her and Taylor Wright going out to the Britt family farm on 9/8. She did not provide complete information to them. But you're also going to hear that during the same interview on October 19th, 2017, that law enforcement officers, in their attempts to get Ashley MacArthur to come down and talk to them that day, they were not straightforward and honest with Ashley MacArthur at the beginning of that meeting. As the state informed you in their opening, when Taylor Wright was found along the fence line at the Britt family farm, there did appear to be a cement type substance on top of her body, as well as some dark looking potting soil on top of it. The evidence is going to show you that Ashley MacArthur on September 9th, 2017, it was a Saturday, went to a local Home Depot and purchased some cement, potting soil, and lawn soil. And there's a video of that. I'm sure you're going to see that video at some point during this trial. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier in my opening, there won't be any evidence of exactly when Taylor Wright was killed or where she was killed, because you're going to hear from several witnesses who spent substantial time out at the Britt family farm after September 9th, 2017, after Ashley MacArthur was at that Home Depot. For example, you're going to hear from witnesses such as Kyle Britt. Kyle Britt actually lives at that time at the Britt family farm. You're going to hear from him. You're also going to hear from Kara Britt. Kara Britt is Kyle Britt's mother. She lives over, I think, in the Jacksonville area, but she frequently comes over to check on her son and work on their farm, that property. You're also going to hear from Patrick Smith. These witnesses did an array of work on this farm. The work ranged from weed eating around posts to actually clearing tree limbs on the fence line where Taylor Wright's body was found on October 19th, 2017. This work by these witnesses was done throughout September and throughout up to mid-October. These witnesses will tell you that while they were working on the farm, they didn't notice or see anything like cement had been mixed up somewhere, potting soil anywhere on this fence line. They did not notice anything unusual at all on this farm while they were doing that work out there. Now, to fully understand this case, you're going to have to learn a little bit something about the relationship that Taylor Wright had with Ashley MacArthur. Ashley MacArthur knew Taylor Wright for over a year before Taylor Wright went missing. The evidence is going to show you they were friends. They hung out. They did brunch together, and I think in August they even took a trip to New Orleans together. Mrs. MacArthur would on occasions even watch Taylor Wright's son when Taylor Wright needed to work and had no one to watch her son. Mrs. MacArthur gave Taylor Wright a key to her house. We believe the evidence is going to show you that the relationship between the two of them was very good. The evidence will show you, as the state mentioned in their opening, that they did some financial transactions together. I believe there will be evidence that they had conversations about starting a business together. What you'll hear is that sometime around August of 2017, Taylor Wright and Ashley MacArthur together put some money in a checking account. Now, the check that went in this checking account, it was it was in the name of Taylor Wright, and it was for $34,000, $35,000, $36,000. You're going to see that the account that it originally went into was in the name of only Ashley MacArthur. But the evidence will show you that when the money went into this checking account in August of 2017, that Taylor Wright was added to this account. The evidence will show you that Taylor Wright had complete access to this account, meaning anything inside the account. The longer that Taylor Wright was missing and people couldn't locate her, things in this case began to really heat up. Multiple law enforcement agencies became involved. You had PPD, the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Fish and Wildlife. Media attention also grew on this case. You're going to hear from some witnesses that would socialize with Ashley MacArthur on occasions up at a place called Sticks Billiards. These witnesses, we believe, will come in and tell you that they heard Ashley MacArthur make some statements that she wanted harm done to Taylor Wright. We believe the evidence will show you with regard to these witnesses, when you hear from them, that there were going to be inconsistencies in what they say Ashley MacArthur allegedly said and what allegedly occurred. Also, you're going to have to, when witnesses come forward, you're going to have to look at their motive and possible interests in saying what they say. You will see that these witnesses who are going to come in and claim that they heard Ashley MacArthur make these statements, that none of them, the evidence will show you that none of them came forward until Ashley.
So you're from Virginia? That's not Britain.
Was arrested until after all of them had gotten together, talked about this case, and watched extensive media coverage on this case. As you can imagine, based on the nature of this charge, there's going to be evidence and testimony about guns. And you're also going to learn that Ashley MacArthur, yes, while married to Zach MacArthur, had a relationship with another man named Brandon Beatty. He was the owner of the Sticks Billiards. There will be evidence that after Taylor Wright stopped communicating, that Ashley MacArthur gave some guns to Brandon Beatty. I think the state's going to put forth evidence that some of these guns may have been originally purchased by Taylor Wright at some point. It's be important for you to understand that you're going to learn that Brandon Beatty is a gun collector. He calls himself, at least back then, he called himself a gun collector. Mr. Beatty's going to testify, and he's going to tell you that pretty much the entire time he knew Ashley MacArthur, which was starting back in the summer of 2016, that Ashley MacArthur, on pretty much a monthly basis, would purchase or give him guns.
Yeah, I was training legs today, not too heavy, but I did rock some leg extensions with 300 pounds leg extension. They were good. And then my calf raises wasn't that high, only like 220. So, but hack squat, I was back up at 6 plates on hack squat. So that's a good day as well.
As a gift, that was the normal course of the relationship, because he absolutely loved guns. Mr. Beatty will testify at no time did anyone ever ask him or tell him to dispose of, get rid of, or hide any type of firearm whatsoever. As the investigation continues, more and more focus is put on Ashley MacArthur. At the time of this investigation, she lived over on Raintree Drive, which is over.
Said it was an easy day.
Over in the East Hill area. She lived there with her husband, Zach MacArthur. She lived there with her daughter, Savannah. You're going to learn that law enforcement searched her residence 3 times. The first time law enforcement came over, they asked for consent. Can we look in your house? And you're going to hear that Ashley MacArthur said, sure. And law enforcement searched the house. You're going to learn that the house on Raintree Drive was searched 2 more times pursuant to a search warrant. The MacArthurs at the time of this investigation.
But as you can see, you can't go much higher than that. I think I can probably. The machine maxes out at, well, the machine says you can only hold 100 kilos. That's 220. But I think I can get it up till, this is what, 7 plates, probably 9 plates. So 180 is probably the max you can do in this machine if someone is holding on it. I have done that. Daddy got big legs.
Use 3 vehicles. There's a Ford F-250 pickup truck. There's a white Jeep Wrangler, and there's a black Jeep Wrangler. Those vehicles were used by.
Don't ask my bench. My bench is weak. I only bench 2 plates. I'm not a runner. I'm a lifter.
MacArthur's back in 2017.
You are inferring correctly, sir. We have passed 7 hours, 11 minutes, and 45 seconds, and nothing heard other than the question yesterday. I could probably leg lift a few of the girls at Twin Peaks.
Learn that all three of
I've been told this is what we have to call ourselves as creators. MG Law does it all the time. He mostly does night shows where he sits and say, "Hey, you want to hang out with Daddy after dark? Come on in, girl. I got what you need. Do you need a big old trucker? Maybe a lawyer? I can be anything you want for only $2,500 subscriptions a month. You get to call my toll-free number and Zoom talk me. You want to do that, you know. Daddy Law."
those vehicles were seized by law enforcement, processed by crime scene, searched. Also, you're going to learn that Ashley MacArthur's family owns some property over on Pace Boulevard. It's a business called Pensacola Automatic Amusement. In the back, there's looks like a warehouse. You're going to learn that law enforcement went to that warehouse, searched and processed that warehouse. As I've told you and the state told you that Taylor Wright's body was found in a shallow grave near the property line of the Britt family farm out in Cantonment.
At least ask a question so we can kind of guess where they're going with it.
As you can imagine, that site where Taylor Wright's body was located was searched and processed by law enforcement. On that property out there is a barn, pretty good sized barn. You're going to learn that that barn was searched and processed by law enforcement. There's also a residence out on the Britt family farm, appears to be maybe a trailer type residence. You're going to learn that law enforcement searched, processed that residence. Of course, the entire Britt farm, the evidence will show you, was searched. Hundreds, the evidence is going to show you hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of pieces of items of evidence were collected in all of these searches. As you sit
This one is actually very short. It's only 20 minutes.
through this trial, you're going to learn that evidence can come to you in many different forms. There can be physical evidence that comes to you, such as DNA, fingerprints, maybe a firearm. There can be evidence that comes to you from a witness that is qualified as an expert in a certain area, maybe a doctor, a medical examiner, a chemist, a biologist. There's evidence that also comes to you from what we just call lay witnesses. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as you sit through this case, you will see there will be no physical evidence introduced in this trial showing you that Ashley MacArthur had anything to do with the death of Taylor Wright. There will be no scientific or expert testimony introduced in this trial showing you that Ashley MacArthur had anything to do with the death of Taylor Wright. There will be no eyewitness testimony introduced into evidence showing you that Ashley MacArthur had anything to do with the death of Taylor Wright. There will be no murder weapon introduced into evidence that has any connection to Ashley MacArthur. As the evidence portion of this trial is about to begin in just a few minutes, I ask you to remember a couple of things. Remember, this is not a trial about whether you believe Ashley MacArthur is a good person or not, or if you like her or not. That's not what this case is about. Remember that your job as a jury is to determine if the state, the ones with the burden, have proven beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt that Ashley MacArthur committed the crime of first-degree premeditated murder with a firearm. Remember Mrs. MacArthur's presumption of innocence that we start this trial with. In the end, we believe the evidence will show you that the state's case is built on, yes, lies told by Ashley MacArthur, a motive she may have had, things that she did, ways that she lived her life that you may not like. But their case will not be built on eyewitness testimony. It will not be built on physical evidence or scientific evidence. In the end, after you had an opportunity to get all the evidence and hear the law from Her Honor, we believe that you will have reasonable doubt in this case. And with that, we're going to ask you to turn a verdict of not guilty in this matter.
Thank you. We're going to start with the witnesses. I've got one juror that was sending me had a little bit of a cough, and I've got my assistant to bring you some water. So we got you some water. Okay, ma'am? Sure. All right. Is everybody else okay if we start with a witness? Everybody good?
Yeah, this is a 5-year-old trial, and it's way better audio and video than we are seeing today. This is a joy to see. And the judge should spend a little more money on her hair bleach. It looks yellow.
Good. All right, Ms. Jensen, call your witness, please.
State calls Jeff Wright.
Who's going to be handling the witness from the
Jeff
defense
Wright,
side?
more like Jeff Wrong, you know?
I will be, Your Honor.
Okay. You can come a little closer. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth? If so, say I do. All right, have a seat. Microphone, state your name and spell your last name, please.
Jeffrey David Wright, last name Wright.
Mr. Wright, what is your date of birth?
4/17/81.
And what do you do for a living?
I work for the U.S. Department of Defense.
How long have you been so employed?
16 years now.
And where do you currently live, just the state?
Alabama.
Do you know Taylor Wright?
I did, yes.
How do you know her?
She and I were married for about 10 years.
And do you have any children in common?
Yes, we do.
And just the first name?
Drake.
Okay, and the age?
Turning 9 this week.
How long were you and Taylor married?
About 10 years.
Now, do you recall the month and year when Taylor went missing?
I do. It was September of 2017.
And at that time, where did you live, state only?
I lived in North Carolina.
Prior to September of 2017, did you live in Florida?
I did.
Okay, in what city?
Navarre.
Now, in September 2017, were you and Taylor legally divorced?
Yes.
Even though you were legally divorced, were you and Taylor still going to court in Florida?
Yes.
Okay. And was that over some financial issues?
Among others, yes.
Okay. At some point, did Taylor withdraw some money that she was not supposed to?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us the date, if you recall, and how much money it was?
Yes, the last time it occurred was 12 July 2017.
And I need you to lean into that microphone.
Yes, ma'am, sorry.
Yeah, speak up.
Got it.
Okay, so July 12, 2017.
Correct.
And how much did she withdraw?
$100,000.
Now, was Taylor in trouble with the court about that?
That's correct.
And did Taylor, back in September 2017, did she also owe you some child support?
That's correct.
Was she supposed to be placing some money back into an escrow account?
Yes.
And did you and Taylor have a court date in September of 2017?
Yes.
And do you recall the date?
There were two. The first one was supposed to be on 7 September, and that was continued. And the second date, I believe, was the 12th of September.
did Taylor Wright show for either of those court dates in September?
No.
And Mr. Wright, when did you personally see Taylor last before she went missing?
It was 13 August 2017,
And where was that?
Jacksonville, North Carolina.
And was that an exchange of your child in common?
That's correct.
Okay. Did Drake have a cell phone back in September 2017?
Yes.
And can you, for the record, tell us what the cell phone number was?
Yeah, his old number, 910-388-4259.
Okay. And did Drake communicate with Taylor on that cell phone?
Yes.
Okay. Now, would they normally, how old was Drake back in August, September 2017?
So he would have been 6, about to turn 7.
Okay. And was it, when Drake and Taylor would communicate, was it more speaking over the phone or texting or
Why is she reading a letter? This is the second time she had it out.
how did they communicate?
It was seldom texting. When there was texting, it was almost exclusively text message, photos. The majority of their communication was verbal on the cell phone.
Now, once Taylor was not being heard from, did you check Drake's cell phone?
He was asked, where do you work currently? So that's why it's not a Southern accent. He's just working in Alabama now.
For contact with Taylor?
I did.
Okay. And did you notice anything, I guess, that caught your attention either September 8th or September 9th?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that?
He had called Taylor's phone, as was the habit. I prompted him to call. He did not get an answer and then got a message back saying, call me back. So he called back. And I believe that was repeated again where he was asked to call back. And that was unusual for him to be directed to call her.
And I believe you said you were in North Carolina at this time?
That's correct.
Okay. And is that Eastern time zone?
Correct.
Well, it could be because the mom and dad was divorced, so the mom could have access to him.
Did you screenshot those missed calls and those texts from September 9th of 2017?
I did.
Judge, just for the record, I have states 1 and 2, which are the texts and calls that Mr. Wright just testified to, and it's my understanding Mr. Brossett does not have an objection to their admission.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, will be received to states 1 and 2.
1 and 2, yes, ma'am. Mr. Wright, did you reach out to Ashley MacArthur on Facebook?
I did.
Okay, and do you remember approximately when that was?
That was the 16th of October, 2017.
And what was your purpose on reaching out to her?
I was trying to find Taylor. I'd been trying to do basically some detective work, talking with all of the people I knew that were in her circle of friends down in Pensacola, trying to get any information I could about where she was, try to help an old friend, basically.
Okay. And how did you reach out? I don't know how to do Facebook. So how did you do that? If you
Yeah, from knowing who Taylor's friends were and just seeing on her list of contacts that Ashley was one of them, I messaged her.
Okay. And did Ms. MacArthur appear to respond or
Yes,
her
she
account? Okay. And did you ask her if she maybe knew where Taylor was?
I did.
And what responses did she give you?
In macro, she said that she had last seen Taylor with 2 backpacks, significant amount of money, that Taylor was nervous about the upcoming trial. And I think that's the gist of it.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Those are all my questions.
All right, Mr. John Ross is going to ask you questions.
Please remember, if it's yes or no, just to answer yes or no. Don't volunteer extra information, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wright.
Because it's the big picture. I don't think he said, but he works in Alabama. And Alabama is known for using all the fancy words.
When did you first meet Taylor Wright?
Oh, he's a vet.
2003 fall timeframe.
And Taylor Wright had a background in law enforcement, correct?
That's correct.
Do you know the extent of her background in law enforcement?
I do.
Can you tell us about that?
Sure. She pursued an undergraduate criminal justice degree when I met her, intending to become a police officer. Upon moving to Jacksonville, North Carolina, she entered the police academy for the city of Jacksonville, North Carolina, graduated, was sworn in as an officer in the Jacksonville Police Department in early 2008, and served in that department on and off until 2013.
It's fair to say that Taylor Wright was trained in physical combat?
Yes.
And Taylor Wright was, the times you know her, was known to carry a gun?
Yes.
Knew how to use a gun?
Yes.
When this money became an issue, and it actually became an issue before July of 2017, correct? This money issue between you and Taylor Wright?
That's correct.
Okay. Started back really February timeframe of 2017?
That's correct.
And fair to say that Taylor Wright was making it very, very difficult for you to get this money back?
That is correct.
I mean, the only way you knew to try to get it back was, as you told the jury, you took her back to court, correct?
That's correct.
And I believe after she took the money in July of 2017, you filed a motion for contempt against her in Okaloosa County, Florida, correct?
That's correct.
And a court date was set for September 7th, 2017, correct?
Correct.
And that was to deal with this money.
Correct.
And that day, Taylor Wright did not show up for court, did she?
There was no hearing on that day. It was continued per her request.
Okay. At the very last minute?
Affirm. I believe she submitted the request on the 6th.
Did that surprise you?
No.
Why not?
This was part of a pattern of delay and seeking continuance at every opportunity.
Would it be fair to say from the time that y'all really got divorced, that Taylor Wright, at least from your observations, made all the simple things between y'all very difficult? Even like, for example, exchanging the child.
I wouldn't say everything, but I'd say a significant number of cases, yes.
7.5 hours. Yes.
May I approach the clerk? Mr. Wright, so you've had an opportunity to look at States Exhibit 1 and 2, correct?
I'll need to be refreshed on which ones these are.
May I approach your own?
Thank you. Affirm, I have been able to review these.
And what those show is communication on Drake's phone with Taylor Wright's phone, correct?
That's correct.
On what date?
9 September 2017.
At what time?
Various times. The text messages started 8:11 p.m. Eastern Time.
Do you remember what day of the week September 9th was?
It says Saturday on the State's Evidence number 2 here.
I have one moment.
You may have two.
I'm going to pass that opportunity up, Your Honor.
You can stand too, sir.
Thank you.
I haven't seen a head move or anything happen in court for the last 2 hours. I don't know what's going on. Maybe we should do another poll. See if people still think it's going to be guilty with 75%.
Well, while they're doing that, ladies and gentlemen, I guess I'll go off the record and tell you my possum story for the morning. So here we go. When I was a little kid, whenever I didn't want to go somewhere first thing in the morning, I would lie in my bed and not move a muscle. And my father's favorite saying was, "You're playing possum. You might as well just get up and face the day." Okay. But this morning I got to see playing possum in action. And my Great Dane went out to go allegedly to the bathroom. And I saw him go for something in the corner of the woods. And I figured out it was a possum, and the possum was up. And the next thing I knew, the possum was down and the possum wasn't moving at all. So I had, of course, the next thing I know, he's licking the possum, and I figure he's going to have possum tongue or possum something. He has a disease of the week. So I went and retrieved him. But when I went over, that possum was not moving. So that is my great adventure with the Great Dane this morning. Mr. Barossett. Sure.
I like this judge.
We're back up here at the bench, please. We're back on open courtroom record. Just 1 second. And just listen to the question, answer just the question.
There's no further questions.
Okay, Ms. Jensen? Okay, now, is this witness excused to return to Alabama?
Yes, ma'am.
Does the defense agree this witness is excused for the remainder of the trial?
He's kicked out of the state.
And you are instructed not to discuss your testimony with anyone, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, safe travels. I don't think we need the court reporter up here. I would like to mute the conversation, talk about kind of scheduling at this point at the bench with the attorneys. Point for the day, besides which you're somewhat shell-shocked because you know that courtroom control over temperature. Tomorrow decides they want to please make sure you're here. We're going to get together at 8:45. We may have tomorrow as far as food, actually in the middle of emergency, to make sure we're done or anything that may. Don't, and even though it's muted and they have an opinion, don't read the news journal too away. And should you, Mr. Barossett's office needs is we're opening the courtroom at 8:15. And if anybody from the media needs to get set up again, or anybody from Ms. Jensen's office or Mr. Barossett's office needs access to work on equipment, they can. As far as the defendant, defense counsel, state court, and clerk and court reporter, we're going to meet at 8:45. But I wanted to make sure that the courtroom was open so that if anybody from a technological standpoint needed to be here a little earlier, they had that option, and that includes if somebody from Ms.
But we're
Jensen's
coming
office
up at
comes up.
lunch.
Like I said,
That could
either
be
side
one of those.
comes
Let's
up,
try
and
and
we've
get
got
it
it.
in by
From the
lunch.
state's perspective, is there anything?
Now we
Oh,
have
let's talk
lunch.
about how long we're going to go each day.
I forgot
My
to
goal, number one, is not to be pushing it on
I'll be
Friday
right
that
back,
we
just,
are rushing to get
I
it
have
to them by
something I
4
need to take
o'clock.
out
So
of
I
the-
would rather,
make
like I
lunch.
just told the panel, push at the front end. And if we go to Friday, it's not a problem. I don't want them getting it at 4 o'clock, and y'all don't probably either. So I just want to keep us on track. I have no idea if we're on track or not. Ms. Jensen felt like if we got to start today, we should be fine. But I would like to go to about 5:30 every day. Ms. Jensen, do you think we'll have plenty to do tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. Mr. Barry Barossett, anything else? Mr. John Barossett? Ms. MacArthur, you good? And if you ever need a comfort break, give them an alert. Don't wait till emergency, okay? All right. And then with that, I will see all of you at 8:45 tomorrow. Thank you so much.
At that point, with law enforcement, did they seem too concerned?
No.
Was it because of the time frame that she'd been gone?
Yeah. Do you want me to elaborate?
No. But at that point, it had only been 48 hours, right?
A little less, yes.
Okay. And then after the 10th, excuse me, was there a time that you reported Taylor missing again?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and when was that?
September 14th, which was a Thursday. It was in the evening. I went to the police department.
Now, prior to your first report on September 10th, when was the last time you had physically seen, excuse me, when was the last time you had physically seen Taylor Wright?
You said prior to her leaving?
Prior to you reporting her missing on the 10th. When was the last time you had physically seen her?
September 8th, Friday.
And where did you see Taylor on September 8th?
At my house on Berkeley Drive.
Okay. And is that in Pensacola, Florida?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Taylor living with you at the time?
She was.
What time was it on September 8th when you last saw Taylor, approximately?
Approximately 10 a.m.
And what were the circumstances? What was going on around 10 a.m.?
I was getting ready to leave to go volunteer. I had to count shirts for an event coming up the following week, and she was getting ready to leave the house.
And was she leaving the house with anybody?
Yes.
Who was she leaving with?
Ashley.
Ashley who?
MacArthur.
You said that they were leaving your house?
At the time, no. I left before both of them went wherever.
Okay, very good. Were you familiar with Ashley MacArthur at that time?
I was.
Okay, how did you know her?
Through Taylor.
Now, did you see Ashley MacArthur in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you please point to her and identify what she's wearing?
She's right here. She's wearing a black outfit.
Is she seated in between her two attorneys?
Yes, ma'am.
Let the record reflect this witness has identified the defendant. Now, prior to Ashley and Taylor being at your home that morning, what was Taylor's demeanor that morning? How did she seem?
Initially, she seemed okay.
Did that later change that morning?
It did.
Okay. When was that?
As it got closer to me leaving and Ashley arriving.
Okay. And how did her demeanor change? If she started okay, what did she seem?
She started to stress out.
Now, had Taylor been drinking alcohol that morning that you were home?
No.
Was Taylor a big drinker?
Not really.
Did you know Taylor to drink in the morning or before noon?
No.
Did Taylor have a car at that time?
She did.
And was it at your house on that day, September 8th?
Yes, ma'am.
Did it ever leave that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. I was gone at a point though, so.
Okay. Do you know if Taylor and Ashley left together that morning?
I don't know.
Okay. What were they doing, Taylor and Ashley, when you left?
Ashley just pulled up to my house. Taylor was walking me out to my car. I said, good morning. Hey, Ash.
And then you went on your way?
I went on my way.
Okay, very good. Did Taylor have a cell phone back then?
She did.
Just one?
That I know of.
Did you ever see another cell phone?
No.
And do you recall what her cell phone number was back then?
954-320-0310. And that was 954 area code.
If I show you some text messages with Taylor, would that help refresh your memory?
Sure. Good.
All right, Mr. John Ross is the witness, right?
Can you just take a look at those messages?
I understand it's John Ross handling this exhibit. I mean, this witness.
I'm sorry?
No, I'm directing this to the attorneys. Ms. Jensen will ask the question again.
Does that help refresh your memory for her phone number back then?
Yes.
Okay, and can you state it again, please?
954-520-0310.
Thank you. Do you know if Taylor had like a code on her phone, or do you know how she would?
She would use fingerprint.
Did you have a cell phone back then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and can you state what your number was for the record?
850-390-3049.
Now, after you left your home on September 8th of 2017, well, actually, let me back up. What time did you leave approximately?
Around 10 a.m. in the morning.
And did you speak, in other words, with your voice, over the phone with Taylor at all on September 8th?
No.
Did you text her at times that morning?
I did.
And did she respond at times?
She did.
When was the last text that you received from her that morning?
Probably sometime between 11 and 12.
Does 11:28 a.m. sound about right?
Yes.
Now, was there a time when your text messages to Taylor stopped? Or excuse me, her responses to your text messages, did they stop?
Yes.
Okay. And did you begin calling Taylor, right?
I did try.
Okay. Did she ever answer?
No.
Did you take screenshots of your text messages from September 8th of 2017?
Yes, I did.
And do they show the dates and the times of your messages to Taylor and her responses?
They show the times.
Okay.
I want to say they show the date too. I can't recall.
Okay.
Court reporter? No.
Some of us doesn't have eyebrows.
Ms. Waller, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 3. You'll take a look at that exhibit and see if you recognize it. It's actually 3A through D. There are 4 pages. Do you recognize those?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you take those screenshots of your text messages?
I did.
And do they fairly and accurately reflect the date and the time of the text messages between you and Taylor on September 8th of 2017? If you look on the first page, page 3.
Yeah, I see the 8th. They do.
Okay, very good. Judge, at this time, I would move states 3A through D.
I have to give Lawn and Crim, they have a great audience. 1,200 people is just sitting watching an empty courtroom and has been doing so for, I don't know how many hours, while I've lost half of my viewers. This is, I need to get into their business. And people are just sitting in chat saying, the jury will be back, the jury will be back, the jury will be back.
evidence.
Your Honor, we object based on the bench conference we have.
All right, I'll overrule the objection that we received. It states 3A through D.
Ms. Waller, on, let's see. On page B at about 3:24 p.m., you sent Taylor a text, is that correct?
I did.
Okay, and did she respond to that?
No,
Okay. And did you call her then at that point?
I did.
Okay, and did she answer?
No,
Did you have Ashley MacArthur's cell phone number at that time?
I did.
And do you remember what that was? The number?
850-712-2299.
Okay. And did you try calling or texting Ashley at that point?
I think I texted her first.
Okay. And when you texted Ashley, did she respond?
I can't remember if she texted back or she called me back.
Okay.
At first, I know she ended up calling me.
Okay. If she did text you back, so did she text and call, or?
I think she texted me, she said, we're okay.
Okay. And then did she end up calling you?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the nature of that conversation?
I asked her where they were, and I hadn't heard from Taylor.
What did she tell you?
She told me that Taylor was emotional, that she was out riding a horse on on Ashley's family farm in Milton, and that they'd be home shortly. I told her to have Taylor call me when she got off the horse.
Did you hear from Taylor after your conversation with Ashley
You don't
MacArthur?
do anything. You just put on a trial and then pull from the
Up until like the text in the evening?
No, I just mean at that point.
No.
Now, Taylor had apparently responded to some of your text messages earlier that morning, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And now she was not. Did that seem usual or unusual for that day?
That seemed unusual.
After this conversation with Ashley, when she said they were at a farm in Milton, did you contact Ashley again that day, later that same day?
I did.
Okay. And when was that?
Sometime in the evening, after 5.
And was that by text or by phone call or by both?
I believe I texted her.
Okay. And did she respond either by text or by phone call?
Yes, but I can't recall which one.
That's okay. Do you remember if you ended up speaking to her later that evening?
I did.
Okay. And what did she tell you at that point?
She just, again, repeated that Taylor was emotional that day. She was stressed out with the things going on with her ex-husband, the divorce. She had told me that she had some of Taylor's jewelry that was left in her car, and she didn't want to hold on to it, so she brought it to my house. She had told me that that she repeated that how Taylor left in an Uber from her house.
Did did Ashley say approximately what time Taylor left in an Uber?
Sometime between 5 and 5:30 in the evening.
After Ashley told you that Taylor left in an Uber, did you still continue trying to call Taylor?
I did.
Okay. And did you get any response? Okay.
I'm not sure. You may have overlapped. What was your answer to that?
Yes, I did try and call her.
And
no response.
Okay. Okay. Now, a few minutes, I guess, after that conversation with Ashley, did you receive a text from Taylor's phone to your phone?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember about what time that was?
About 7:28, I believe.
And did that text message sound like Taylor?
I'm going to overrule. You can answer the question.
Most of it sounded like Taylor, except for the last part.
Okay, and what was unusual about the last part?
She said, I was trying to get my life organized and back on track. She didn't feel like her life was unorganized.
Okay. So that seemed odd to you?
That did.
Okay.
But she was in legal trouble because she didn't pay her husband.
Now, later that same day, this is still on the 8th, did you see Ashley MacArthur?
I did.
Okay, and where was that? What was that situation?
That was in the evening when she came to my house to bring me the jewelry that was left in her vehicle.
How long do you think Taylor was at your home, if you recall?
Taylor?
I'm sorry. How long was Ashley at your home, if you recall?
No more than 15, 20 minutes.
All right. Now, did Ashley MacArthur tell you any property that Taylor may have had when she left in this Uber?
Property that Taylor may have
Yeah,
had?
did Taylor have any belongings with her when
She said that Taylor left with 2 brown bags. That's what she initially had told me.
Okay. And did she say that they had anything in them?
She said that one of the bags had some of Taylor's clothing in it. Some had, the other bag had like papers in it and some checks.
Did she say anything about cash?
She said cash and checks, actually.
And would it have been usual or unusual for Taylor to have these brown bags?
We are watching an old trial where Ashley MacArthur is being charged with unaliving Taylor Wright over 34K. It's just a placeholder because we're on verdict watch and we don't really have anything. We were looking at the kid case, but I can't do that. I started thinking about my grandson, so I didn't want to do that anymore. Well, I want to think about my grandson, but not in that way. So Jemima found this one, so we can just spend some time because the verdict clock is at 7 hours, 48 minutes, and 45 seconds. I have a new poll up because I want to see if you think roughly 8 hours of deliberation changes what you think the jury will find. I don't know what they are saying over on Lawn and Crim, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
No.
No, but which one? Is it usual or unusual?
Oh, it was usual.
Okay. Now, did Ashley tell you something different later?
She did.
What'd she tell you?
She said it was a brown bag and a black bag or grayish bag.
Okay. And then did you actually end up finding those bags?
I did.
Okay, and where were they?
The blackish gray bag was found in Taylor's truck, and then the brown bag was found in my 3rd bedroom.
And when you found them, did they have money or checks or clothing or anything in them?
Clothing was in the bag that was in the vehicle. I don't know if no checks were found in a bag in the back bedroom. There was a check found, but not in that bag.
Okay. Now, after Ashley left your house that night on the 8th, did you hear from her anymore that night?
I did.
Okay. And what was the nature of that
I'm sorry, you said from Taylor?
No, from Ashley. Did you hear from Ashley after she left your home that night?
I did.
Okay. And what was the context of that contact?
She texted me late in the evening. It was almost midnight. She sent me a screenshot of a text that she received from Taylor. And she just said, I'm sorry to text you so late. I just received this, thought that you might want to see it.
Okay. And did you read the text message that was from Taylor to her?
I did.
And again, same question as earlier. Did that text message sound like Taylor to you?
That one seemed very odd.
Okay.
Same objection.
Same objection.
Rule the same.
And why does it seem very odd?
Because she said court and the move was stressing her out. She was stressed with court. She wasn't stressed out about the move at all. She was very excited.
You're talking about the move, you mean
moving into my house.
Okay. Okay. Now, did you also screenshot your text conversation with Ashley MacArthur on September 8th, 2017 regarding Taylor?
Don't do that. You will be instantly blocked if you mention any streamer over there. I've seen it done to a lot of people.
Yes.
Ms. Waller, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 4. It's A through L, 12 pages. And if you'll just take a look through those and see if you recognize.
Okay.
All right, now I'm going to jump back to September 8th. After you did not hear from Taylor for a few days, were you angry?
Yeah.
Were you upset?
Yes.
Okay. And had you and Taylor recently had, I guess, some trust issues?
Yes.
Okay. Are you okay? Right. And was there a conversation that you and Taylor had at Ashley MacArthur's home?
Yes.
Okay. And approximately when was that?
The end of July 2017.
Who all was there?
Ashley, Taylor, and I.
Okay. And what did you learn during that meeting, I guess?
That Taylor had cheated on me. She had another relationship.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes. Taylor told me that she had done drugs.
Did she say what kind of drugs?
She said cocaine.
And did she say how many times she had done it?
She said 3 times.
After that conversation, did you and Taylor remain together as a couple?
Yes.
Now, when Taylor, when you hadn't heard from her after September 8th, did that bring kind of all those emotions and feelings back for you?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And
Someone
what did
just
you
walked
end up
past
doing with
camera.
Taylor's belongings?
A lot of stuff was already packed up because she was in the process of moving her belongings into the house. And at that point, with me being upset, I just put it back in the box truck.
Okay. And where was the box truck?
It was in my driveway.
And then what did you end up doing with the stuff that was in the box truck?
A gentleman that works for Ashley named James came and picked up the box truck and took it to Ashley's warehouse.
Okay. And had you asked Ashley to do that?
Yes.
Okay. And what date was Taylor's property moved? What day was it moved?
The Monday after, so that would have been the September 11th.
And where was it taken to?
A warehouse that Ashley owns, works out of.
Do you know the street that it was on?
Pace Boulevard.
And do you remember about what time it was that her stuff was moved from your house to the warehouse?
The afternoon, maybe between 1 and 3. I'm not 100% certain on that time.
Could it have been a little bit later?
Could have been.
All right. And who did you say James was?
My understanding is he was an employee with Ashley.
Okay, very good. Was he helpful with moving Taylor's belongings?
He was.
Okay. Now, where was Taylor's car on the 8th?
It was in my driveway, kind of off to the side in the grass.
Okay. And did you end up going through it?
I did.
Was anyone with you?
Yes.
Who was with you?
Ashley.
And when did you and Ashley go through Taylor's car?
That would have been the Thursday after she went missing. So that was September 14th.
You are what?
And do you remember
4 minutes and
approximately what
20
time that
seconds
was
early.
that you went through Taylor's car?
That would have been in the
We're just watching an old case. The verdict clock is at 7 hours 55 minutes.
late afternoon, like 4, 5, 6, somewhere around there.
Was anything removed from Taylor's car?
Yes.
What?
4 knives and 2 guns.
Anything else? I think you said something about there was a bag in there.
There was what?
Objection leading.
A bag?
Well, yeah, the grayish black bag.
Okay.
Oh, apparently there was some drama in the Megan Boswell trial with a photographer. Let's just see that.
Who are you with? All right. Are you the designated still photographer?
Yes, sir.
If that flash goes off again, you'll have 10 days in jail. The order's very clear.
Yes,
There'll be no lights, there'll be no flash. That's disruptive to the jury, that's disruptive to the lawyers, that's disruptive to this process, and I'm not even kidding. If I see another light, whoever it comes from will immediately be held in criminal contempt of this court, taken to a jail for 10 days.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm sorry. I have it on not flash on my settings.
Well, it went off because it was right in my face.
Judge wasn't happy, and of course you should make sure that you're not using flash photography in a courtroom. How hard can that be?
The knives and the guns that were found in Taylor's car, did either you or Ashley take pictures of those?
I know we took pictures. I can't remember if I took the picture or if Ashley took the picture though.
Okay. Were they texted to you though, I guess to like document?
Yes, yes. So, yeah, then Ashley took the pictures. That's right.
And then she texted the pictures to you?
Yes.
Okay. And then what was supposed to be done with those guns?
I asked Ashley to take them. I don't like weapons. I had no safekeeping of it.
Okay. Did she indicate she had someplace?
Yes, we looked at it a little bit, but I can't do baby cases, especially after my grandson. Mo is covering it. I can recommend going over to Mo's.
She said that she had a safe.
All right, first witness. Ms. Waller, I'm going to show you what have been previously marked as State's Exhibits 5 and 6. You'll just take a look at those and see if you recognize them.
I do.
All right, and were those photos taken on September 14th, 2017?
Yes.
And were those guns found in Taylor's car on that day?
Yes.
Judge, at this time, I would move States 5 and 6 into evidence.
No objection.
Received as States 5 and 6.
Judge, and if I could just publish them real quick. Sure. Watch your eyes and go right. This is State's Exhibit 5 for the record, and this is State's Exhibit number 6.
Just an old case.
Are those your fingernails or are those Ashley's?
Ashley's.
Okay. Do you remember what Taylor was wearing on September 8th, 2017 when you last saw her?
Shorts, t-shirt, flip-flops. She had some jewelry on as well.
Okay. And what kind of jewelry did she have on?
She always wore.
It's a lady, a former CSI agent who unalived a friend of her. I don't know how friendly they were, who over some money was owed. I think this one is the decedent's partner or something, and we had her ex-husband there before.
Necklace that had a bullet. She wore a ring on her thumb. And then she also wore a bracelet with the scales of justice.
Ms. Fuller, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 7. If you'll take a look at that and see if you recognize it.
I do.
And is that a photograph of Taylor, right?
Verdict clock has reached 8 hours.
It is.
And does it show a necklace, the bullet necklace you just described?
It does.
Judge, at this time, I would move State 7 into evidence.
No objection.
Received as State 7.
If I could just publish it for the jury. This is State's Exhibit number 7. Ms. Waller, Did you know Taylor to use Ubers?
Not in the time frame that I was with her.
Okay. And at some point after you hadn't heard from her, did you, I guess, get into her account?
I did.
Okay. And when was the last time she used an Uber?
It was a trip that she took to Las Vegas, which was
Sustained.
20.
Sustained.
Oh.
Don't answer the question.
My apologies.
Judge, can we approach?
Counsel approach the court reporter and please mute the mic.
I think you said you didn't know Taylor to use an Uber in the time that you knew her.
I have not seen her use Uber whenever I was with her.
Okay. Are you familiar with Taylor Wright's handwriting signature?
Yes.
Ms. Waller, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as Stacy Exhibit number 26. Does that look like Taylor's signature?
This one right here?
I'm going to object, Judge. There's no basis for her to give that opinion.
In the course of your relationship,
I'll sustain it, and Ms. Jensen, you may follow up.
during the course of your relationship with Taylor Wright, did you ever have an opportunity to see her handwriting?
Yes.
Did she write you letters?
Yes.
Did she give you cards?
Yes.
Were you familiar with her handwriting and her signature?
Yes.
All right, I'll overrule the objection.
Again, I'm showing you State's Exhibit number 26. Does that look like Taylor Wright's handwriting?
That is not Taylor's handwriting.
Or her signature?
Or her signature.
Ashley mentioned Taylor was riding a horse at this farm in Milton on September 8th. Did Ashley ever mention a farm on Britt Road to you?
No.
In any conversations you had with Ashley MacArthur, did she mention Taylor having a lockbox on Britt Road?
No.
Those are my questions. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Mr. John Barossett is going to cross-examine you, and just remember, if it's a yes or no, just answer the question. Don't volunteer extra information, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And then Ms. Jensen will get to go last.
Good morning, Ms. Waller.
Morning.
You described your relationship with Taylor Wright as not hostile, correct? Or,
Correct.
excuse me, not volatile. That was the word, correct?
Correct.
When you couldn't get in touch with Taylor Wright on September 8th, 2017, you would agree that you were very frustrated and angry with her, correct?
Yes.
As those text messages show, you called her a liar.
I did.
You called her a drug user.
I did.
You mentioned that you knew more things to her. I know everything, things you don't even know that I know, Taylor, correct?
Yes.
Going back to late July 2017, you indicated to us that you received information that Taylor was having some sort of relationship with another woman over in Mississippi, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And
Taylor was a player. First, she had her husband and kids. Then she moved down, had a relationship with this woman, and now she's in Mississippi banging. And I'm single.
you also said that there was a meeting, I believe maybe the next day at Ashley MacArthur's house, where you found out more information, and that being that Taylor was also, I guess, potentially using illegal drugs, correct?
That's correct.
And in fact, after that, you did end the relationship for a period of time with Taylor, didn't you?
Maybe a day or two, a couple days.
Did you mention a week earlier that y'all were broken up?
Did I mention a week?
Were y'all broken up for a week?
I mean, we were having a conversation.
No, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Back to 9-8, staying on the same topic. When
I don't know if that really does much. I thought it would be a quick verdict because of he unalived someone else before. But I can be wrong once a year. Once a year, I'm allowed to be wrong. You're wrong all the time. Shut up, Jamie.
you could not get in touch with Taylor Wright that evening, besides the things you said, you did something else that evening, right?
I did.
You went out and bought, a drug test for Taylor Wright, right?
I did.
So when she came home, you were going to demand that she take that drug test.
Yes.
Okay, so y'all's relationship was not volatile.
No.
Verdict clock, 8 hours, 7 minutes, 17 seconds.
Back to that meeting in the at Ashley MacArthur's house where you had this conversation with Taylor Wright in July of 2017. When you arrived at the residence, Taylor Wright was already there, correct?
Yes.
And she was.
I'm sorry, that light is bright, the projector.
Okay, we'll cover it up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
When you arrived at Ashley MacArthur's house in July of 2017 for that meeting, Taylor Wright was already at the residence, correct?
Yes.
No one else was there, correct? So then when you went in, it was just the two of you, correct?
Yes.
How did Taylor Wright gain access to the residence?
She had a key.
She had a key to Ashley MacArthur's residence?
Yes.
Come on now.
You did get to witness, at least on some occasions, the relationship between Ashley MacArthur and Taylor Wright, correct?
Yes.
Okay, for example, I think the three of y'all may have done brunch together one time, correct?
Correct.
And then in August, as late as, and I don't know the exact date, but August of 2017, there was a trip over to New Orleans, correct?
Yes.
I know there was some snags on that trip. One person that went on the trip got sick and kind of derailed things, correct?
Yes.
But you did get to see Ashley MacArthur.
But it's because the heinousness of the crime they'll try them as adults.
And Taylor Wright interact in New Orleans in August of 2017.
Yes.
And you know what we're here about. I mean, there was nothing during that trip that caused you any concern about their relationship at all, correct?
No.
Spending time with Miss Wright, fair to say it became obvious that she was.
Y'all okay? We have people pulling out blankets. I wanted to make sure they heard your question, Mr. Grossett, so hang on a second. Let me pretend to go over here and adjust the thermostat.
What's going on in this courtroom? Opossum stories, thermostats, blankets. Jamie would love to be in this courtroom.
During the time that you did spend with Miss Wright, it became obvious that she was going through some issues with her ex-husband, Jeff Wright, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever meet Mr. Wright face to face?
Before or after Taylor?
Before this incident?
No.
Okay. But would it be fair to say that pretty much the entire time that you knew Taylor Wright, she seemed to be in some sort of, for lack of a better word, turmoil with her ex-husband, Jeff Wright?
Yes.
And fair to say that she pretty much, from your observations of Taylor Wright in this disagreement with her ex-husband, that she kind of had a win it at all costs attitude, that she was not going to let Mr. Wright win, correct?
Yes.
I mean, even to the point of she was not, I mean, she made it very clear she was not giving him any money back, correct?
Yes.
Taylor Wright moved in with you at your residence sometime around the end of August, beginning of September 2017?
Yes.
Somewhere in that time frame. And to move into your residence, it was Ashley MacArthur let y'all use one of her company's trucks, correct? Her family's company's trucks to move Taylor's stuff?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, an employee, I believe you mentioned, from a business that the MacArthur, the Britt family owns, helped with the move, correct?
Yes.
It's fair to say that this truck sat in your driveway for, I don't know, a week or two, approximately?
A week.
A week, okay. And the vast majority of Taylor Wright's belongings remained in that truck as it sat in your driveway, correct?
Yes.
And that truck was in your driveway at the time on September 8th, 2017, the last time you say you saw Taylor Wright, correct?
Yes.
Do you know what kind of telephone Taylor Wright had?
An iPhone.
Fancy.
And to get in her iPhone, I believe you were somewhat aware of how to get into it. You said that it had to have a fingerprint to get into it?
Yes.
Could you get in with a passcode?
I'm not sure.
But you had the ability to get in her phone, correct?
I did.
And the reason you had the ability is because after y'all had some of the incidents in July, you made it so that you could open her phone with your thumbprint, correct?
That was Taylor's suggestion. That's correct.
Okay. My question, okay, so but that was, y'all had,
Yes.
okay, and so you could access her phone with your thumbprint.
Yes.
So the only two people you know could access her phone with her thumbprint would be her and you.
Yes.
But if she had access to the dead person, she could just use the dead person.
Let's talk about September 7th, 2017. I believe that was a Thursday night that y'all met up at the Twin Peaks restaurant, correct?
Yes.
That's the one up there by Cordova Mall?
Correct.
All right. And you and Miss Wright were there first, is that correct?
Yes.
And subsequently, Miss MacArthur showed up.
Yes.
And what I heard you testify to was basically there was a conversation about Ashley MacArthur picking up Taylor to take her to a bank or something like that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I believe you mentioned that the conversation was somewhat tense. You maybe used a word such as that, correct?
Not necessarily the conversation, but the demeanor of the two.
The demeanor. Is it fair to say at that dinner or that get together that you were already, or at some point during the dinner, got upset with Miss Wright about something that happened that day?
I got upset with Miss Wright.
That's what I'm asking you. Did you get upset with her? Were you upset with her at that dinner? Let me see if I can help you. When you got to that dinner, or at least maybe sometime before that dinner, were you under the understanding that Taylor had been in Destin all day that day with Ashley MacArthur?
I think that sounds familiar.
And had you not found out that that was not true? That Ashley hadn't been with her that day?
I did find that out.
Okay. And you were upset at the dinner about Taylor lying to you?
No, I was not upset with Taylor at dinner.
Okay. Staying with this conversation at Twin Peaks, you knew Taylor for an extended period of time. Taylor Wright is not a shy person, is she?
No.
Okay. She's not the type of person that is meek or described as mild, correct?
No,
Not at all.
no,
So there was no conversation of Taylor Wright looking at Ashley MacArthur saying, "Give me my money. I want my money." Nothing like that, right?
no,
There was no, "Why are you stealing my money?"
no,
There was no, "Why don't you give me my money?"
no.
There was no, "Why are you making it so difficult for me to get my money?"
It's
There was that.
It's a titlet.
She said that.
Not in those words.
Okay. That evening, did you, September 7th, 2017, did you and Taylor Wright go back to your house after leaving Twin Peaks?
Yes,
Okay. And we all together, slept together, stayed together at your house that evening?
yes,
Were you with her until the next morning when you say, you left for work and you saw Ashley MacArthur come over?
yes,
Y'all were together?
yes.
Okay. When Ashley MacArthur came over to your house the next morning, what time do you think that would have been? This is on September 8th, 2017.
It was around that 10 a.m. time frame.
Okay. What vehicle did she come over in?
He didn't testify, but we know she was yelling at him. The grandmother testified he was being beaten by a belt. So everyone in that family had been at each other's throat at some point.
I recall a black four-door Jeep.
A black Jeep. Okay. Is that several models of Jeep? There's like the Liberty, the Cherokee, a Wrangler, black Wrangler. So Saturday, September 9th, you did not hear from Taylor Wright.
No,
Okay. At that point, I believe you had not contacted law enforcement on Saturday, correct?
I did not.
It was so Sunday, September 11th, you contacted, I'm sorry, it was the 10th. I apologize. The 10th you contacted law enforcement. Is that what I heard?
Yes,
Now let's go to September 11th, that Monday. I believe you testified that you don't like guns, correct?
I don't.
Okay. Now, on September, and I maybe have my dates wrong, but September 11th, didn't you ask Ashley MacArthur to bring you a gun?
I did.
Okay. And she brought you over a gun at your request.
She did.
Why did you ask for a gun?
Because I had been in text conversation with Jeff about everything, and he put a little fear in me that I should protect myself.
Jeff being Jeff Wright?
Yes,
I think you subsequently bought your own gun later that week, correct?
I did.
We'll come back to the 11th in just a second. I think you said there was also the day that maybe some belongings were moved. Is that the date? Taylor's belongings were moved from your house?
Yes.
Okay. We'll come back to that in just a second. Now, the 14th of September is when you say you and Ashley MacArthur went into Taylor Wright's car, correct?
Yes.
And it was your idea to search her car, correct?
Yes.
And you asked Ashley MacArthur to help you?
Yes.
And I believe the state introduced into evidence some pictures of some guns that were located in the vehicle?
Yes.
Taylor's vehicle? And those guns, you said, I don't want to keep those guns. We'll give those to Ashley MacArthur to hold, correct?
Correct.
Even though you had just asked for a gun a couple days before.
Well, they were semi-automatics. I don't know.
Just answer yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. In the time that you knew Taylor Wright, she liked guns, correct?
Yes.
Did you know her to have a lot of guns?
I knew of 3.
Did you know her to frequent or go to gun stores?
Gun shows.
Gun shows, okay.
Yes.
And to buy and sell, trade guns, whatever you do at gun shows?
Yes.
Going back to September 11th, the Monday, if I believe it was correct, of 2017. At that point, you had not heard from Miss Wright in 2 days, give or take?
Correct.
All right. And what you did was at that point, whatever belongings she had in your house, you took those and you put them in the box truck that was in your driveway, correct?
Yes.
And then on that same day, September 11th, once the box truck was loaded up with whatever her belonging, you called someone, you wanted it gone, correct?
Ashley. Yes.
Okay. And the same gentleman, I think Mr. James Hayes, came over and took all that stuff.
Yes.
So just within a couple of days of not hearing from Taylor Wright, you wanted all her stuff gone.
Yes.
Can I have one moment?
Texted somebody about the temperature. Are y'all? Is everybody kind of okay? But we got a few that are cold. And unfortunately, once you go to the other extreme, you're going to start peeling clothing off, and that's fraught with potential dangers.
Prosecutor, please do the back clock this night, full footage of the courtroom.
Sure. I agree. We can do it.
I need a process.
Can you put them on your board? Yes. Your report, right? Is that your board? Well, all right, everybody good? Thank you, Mr. Ross. All right.
Just a few more questions, Ms. Waller. The reason you got the gun from Ashley MacArthur is because you were scared of Taylor Wright at that time. And in all the times that you saw Ashley MacArthur and Taylor Wright together, you never heard, saw anything to indicate to you that Ashley MacArthur was threatening to harm Taylor Wright, causing her, going to cause her any physical harm, anything like that?
No.
And no indication that Taylor Wright was scared of her or anything like that?
No.
No further questions.
All right, read your record, Jensen. When Mr. Brossett was asking you about guns, is there a certain reason why you didn't use Taylor's?
Because I don't know how to use a semi-automatic.
Okay. What kind of gun did Ashley MacArthur bring you?
A revolver.
Now let's talk about
It's not that hard. Have you seen a movie? You can figure it out.
being scared of Taylor Wright. Was Taylor Wright ever violent with you?
Never.
Did she do anything to make you fear her?
Never.
Who put that fear in your head?
Jeff.
The person that she was going through this contentious court proceeding with?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Brossett was asking you about this meeting at Twin Peaks on September 7th. And he said Taylor wasn't demanding or yelling or whatever that line of questioning was about her money.
No.
Okay. But he asked you if she said, "Why are you making it so difficult to get my money?" And you said she did say that.
In different words. Yes.
Okay. Well, what was the conversation?
She had told me leading up to that night.
Sustain.
Any movie where they use a semi, it's not that hard. Congratulations with your son, 32 years. So he's 5 years older than me.
Don't talk about what Taylor told you leading up to. Just answer Ms. Jensen's question.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, at Twin Peaks, Mr. Barassa had asked you if Taylor said something like, "Why are you making it so difficult to get my money?" And you said, yes, Taylor did say that.
She did.
Okay, so what did she say?
She felt like Ashley was making it hard to get her money. She kept making excuses.
Okay. You said that you thought Ashley arrived at your home that morning in a Jeep.
That's what I remember.
Okay. Is that the vehicle that you normally saw Ashley in whenever you did see her?
Yes.
Okay. Is it possible it was a different car?
Yeah.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
All right, is she free to go?
Judge, I would allow her to be released from the courthouse, but she could be subject to recall.
Okay. Okay. All right, you're free to leave the courthouse. Don't talk about your testimony, but
I didn't watch that
we
one.
may call you, and if we call, you need to come back, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Jensen, call your next witness.
Everyone, it's 6 o'clock my time. We have been on verdict watch for almost 8.5 hours. I'm going to go make myself some dinner. I have a new stream set up for 1:15. And if anything happens in the case, I will, of course, go live so we can cover it. But I'm going to make myself some dinner right now. And hopefully you'll join me back in about an hour. Thank you for watching so far.
What exhibit are you referring to?
I'm going to make this 100, Your Honor.
All right.
100. Because it is 100%. correct.
Objection, Your Honor.
So you literally built a cannon?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
All
right, I'm in love.
Go back. Please do that again. Oh, that was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
While I'm waiting for this, did you, whether it's true or not, believe that Mr. Randolph had slept with your wife?
I wouldn't have cared.
You wouldn't have cared?
No.
Did you believe he had slept with your wife?
No.
Did you believe he slept with your mother-in-law?
Probably did. Everybody has. Everybody has.